What's going on, everyone? It's the Infinity. Welcome to my channel on this Sunday. This is the place where we're reviewing Yellowstone season by season. This week is season 2. Spoiler review of Yellowstone, the TV show on Paramount Plus, starring Kevin Costner, made by Taylor Sheridan. I think I got his name right.
Yep. Actually, this show's on Peacock.
Clear. Okay.
It's now on Paramount Plus, but it started on Peacock. Yep.
It did start on Peacock, and now it's moved over.
It wasn't last I knew. That's news.
I think it's on both now. I'm not sure. But anyways, we have here tonight with us Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge. How you doing, Tom?
Where he owes me money.
Well, and Tom, Midnight's Edge After Dark.
Oh, that guy, yeah. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, Tom. Tell everyone where they can find you, bud.
You just told everybody where you can find me. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter or devouring a cake.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You got cake?
No, but I wish I did.
I want cake.
Yeah, I know. I got cheese and crackers and pepperonis.
What kind? Okay, what's your favorite kind of cake?
It really depends on the day.
Okay.
All right, so if it's a Tuesday or today, like Sunday, what's your favorite type of cake?
Today I'm just like my mood. Right now, like a really moist chocolate cake would be really nice.
Moist.
Yes, it has to be moist.
So it has some gooiness to it as well, right?
Yeah, who wants dry cake, right? Like, yeah.
That's what she said.
That's not how it works.
That was really well timed.
Oh,
you're like sitting on that, like
I was like, my finger was hovering on there. Oh my god!
At least we put this matter to bed. That's what she said, or he said.
Anyways, thank you for being here tonight, Tom. I can't wait to discuss this show with you, and of course, we have our Canadian representation from the North, the true white North, Script Doctor. How's it going?
Hi.
Are you staying warm?
I am. I'm trying to. I mean, we got a cold snap over the last few days. Got a space heater on, wearing lots of layers.
Are you like in one of those Eskimo, like the little Eskimo jackets?
I don't own any of those. My girlfriend has one.
What? I had one when I was in Canada.
All the fur lining and all that stuff.
Yeah. Dude, you got to get one of those. That's.
I've got a really nice insulated winter jacket. Doesn't have any fur to it though. And then if I need more pocket space, I've got like a hoodie and a leather jacket combo that I use just to make sure that I have enough. Sometimes I have to like go out shopping and I don't want to carry a bag, so I just put it in the leather jacket pockets. They're big. They can hold a head of lettuce in one of those pockets.
Oh, wow.
That's a shoplifting jacket.
I mean, it would work for me well in LA, but doesn't pass muster here in Canada.
Oh my God. It's shoplifting. That was part of the show, which we're going to get to.
Yeah.
Script Doctor, is there anything you want to plug before we get started?
Yeah, just my Patreon. I just posted yesterday the screenplay review of the the second draft of Dan Aykroyd's Ghostbusters 3. It is a disappointment, but not for the reasons you may think.
Oh my!
And then next, coming up in March, which is only a few days away, I'm doing a special on the Marx Brothers, the comedy team, and I'm going to be reviewing and talking about their classical comedy films.
Wow. Okay. It was lots of stuff coming up for you. Make sure you check out Script Doctor's Patreon. The link is in the description as well as Tom's, and check them both out. So we're gonna get started. So as if you guys watched last week's show, you know that I had a little bit of a mixed feelings about the show and John Dutton. My feelings remain unchanged regarding John Dutton, especially. I think he's a piece of shit. And things have progressed a lot. Old enemies have become frenemies. Some people have died. Some people are still alive. And things have occurred that I've been like, what the f- is going on and what's going to happen in the next season? I'm definitely still interested. Like I'm interested, and now I've become more invested in the characters. So I want to know what's going to happen to them. Jamie's all over the fucking place. I'm like, I can't with you, Jamie. I can't.
I'm
Um,
surprised you don't like John because he's like my favorite character.
Really, John Dutton's your
Yeah.
favorite character? No, I hate that dude. I think he's a piece of shit. I really don't like him at all. I think
Why?
my favorite character is why? Because he's a terrible person. He's just a terrible father. He's a terrible person. I can't bring myself to feel sorry for him. Even that scene, like near the end, where you finally see John's father and like the moment he had with him, I was just like, I feel nothing for you. You're such a psycho. Um,
Wow.
like I was
I
like,
mean,
okay.
to be fair, everybody on this show is a fucking psycho.
That is true. That is true. To an
That's why I'm
extent.
just kind of like, I mean, like of all of them, he's the one I relate to the most because I understand his motivations.
I mean,
Right?
I
He's just trying
understand.
to protect his family and he's trying to
Yeah,
protect his legacy with his farm
I
and his ranch.
understand his
But yeah,
motivations as well, but I don't like the man. Like I don't like the character, and I don't like the man. I love Kevin Costner, which is really like I have a dichotomy. But I think my least favorite character so far has been the native wife of
yeah,
Casey. I
she's the
forget her
worst.
name. She's
Monica.
Monica,
Monica.
she is the worst.
What
She
a
started off strong,
week.
and then they just threw all this stuff at her to make her
They
terrible.
did. And it was just like the whole time I was like, what is her
Well, what's stupid
purpose?
about her is she has these big, huge, grandiose moments where she declares how bad John is,
Mhm. Mhm.
but then always continues to go right to the path that everybody else thinks she should anyway. Like, yeah, it just, again, it really makes no sense to me. And really, and not to go ahead too far, but like,
No, it's fine.
granted, once you get going in the show, I think they start to realize how shitty of a character that she is. Because
Yeah,
she
I
does kind
Fix
of
her
get
up,
pushed
yeah.
to the background a little bit more and stuff like, yeah.
well, I mean, I don't know because I haven't watched the show past this season, but insofar in this season, literally every character told her the things that I was thinking from her. I think it's like her grandfather to one of her, like I think it was her principal, to the guy she sort of starts dating after her accident because she's like, he's interested in
Her
her.
rehab guy, yeah.
Yeah, the rehab guy, the native rehab guy was like, they were about to like have sex finally, and then she's just like, no, I can't do it because I love Casey, and then he's just like,
And
well,
he turns out to be a fucking psycho. Yeah.
well, no, he was like, he was like, you're the one that's doing this to yourself. Why don't you, like, you're the one that's trying to premeditatively push everyone away, including your family, when you clearly that's what you want. So why don't you go be with your family? And
Yeah, but
she was
he's like a stalker, dude.
okay. Oh, well, we don't know that yet. I don't know that yet.
Oh, shit.
That's that's probably coming up. I have no idea. I just remember he basically told her to go away, and she did.
Usually, like, most of the stuff is pretty self-contained. And I thought they got through his stuff. My bad.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I don't even think he is a stalker. He doesn't show up again after she technically dumps him.
No, well, I mean,
doesn't?
not in this season,
Nope.
unless she
Not
shows
that I
up.
remember.
He shows up later on. I don't remember that, but I mean, I don't know because I haven't watched it. But in this season, he never showed up after
Maybe it was just the
rejected him.
vibes I was getting from him. I don't remember.
No, I think
Maybe.
he was just a guy who's like, oh, I see an opportunity here. I dig her.
Yes.
And then she's like,
Yes.
no, I love my husband because she has brain damage.
Mhm.
Or I'm
And then-
flip-flopping him with a different character, maybe.
Well,
I
this
don't
is the
know.
biggest problem with Monica, and one of the things that they have a big issue with the females on the show is they don't really know what to do with them other than
Mm.
give them cool moments. But at the same time, Monica is always the wrench in the cog. Like,
Mm.
she's the sabot in the machines. Like, they just throw that stuff. They throw her things to do to spur conflict that otherwise would be unnatural for her normally.
I agree.
And they just do that just to really mess with Casey.
Right. Well, see, interestingly, by the end of the season, I was kind of like, okay, I get why she wants to get away from this family because of what
Yeah.
happened to her son. But before then, I needed more. Like, I was like, I don't get why you're so angry. I don't like after your head injury that had nothing to do with your family because you got beat up on the res. Like, nothing makes sense about what you're saying. But then something does happen to do with the family and her son's affected. And so, like, naturally, I would be like, okay, like now I understand why she wants to get away from these people. But they didn't even really go that route. Like, she just kind of went, like, and I'm
Okay.
jumping ahead here, but in that episode when he goes like, I'm gonna go kill these motherfuckers that stole our son, she's like, you better promise me something, you'll kill him. And I thought she was gonna be like, promise me when you guys come back, we're gonna leave together. But she was like, promise me you're gonna kill him. And he was like, I promise you. And I was like, this was your opportunity to get out. Like, if that's what you really wanted to do, this
That
would be
was
the
it.
perfect
See,
moment.
there's your
to be
first
like, "I'm
mistake
out."
is you're watching the show too logically.
Yeah, you have to get inside the actor's head, which is what would be more dramatic for them to do at this moment. And it's like, killed them.
Kill them
Exactly.
all.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. Monica is one of the most uneven characters in the show. She'd have served the show better if she had just been killed in like this season or the next.
The last one. She should have just been killed the
Yeah,
last
she
one.
honestly should have just got killed then. And that would actually given Casey more to work with, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
But no, I agree with script. Taylor's great on the dramatic part, pulling you in. Sure, a lot of it's melodramatic, soap opera-y stuff. I'm not totally, oblivious to that, but I'm also not immune to it, right?
Yeah.
And we also have the problem, and that is that you're right, script. His biggest downfall is writing female characters. All of his female characters are flawed in the writing somehow. You have Ellie, who is the super fucking Mary Sue, although depending on if you like her or not.
Wait, who's Ellie?
No,
Ellie is
Beth.
the one from 1883.
Oh, okay, I don't know her yet.
I haven't got to Beth yet. Helen Mirren's character is a little bit easier to overlook because she's older, so she has a little bit more experience. And I like how she's being written because, and not to get too deep into the weeds, but like a lot of her is she's winging it as she goes, and she admits it, right?
Yeah.
But she knows the life, right? So that I'll overlook. Beth, on the other hand, script is right, and this is where she has this Mary Sue quality about her. But a lot of people will overlook it because we got to remember, just because something bad happens to a character does not mean they're not a Mary Sue.
Yes.
And the only thing that's keeping her kind of on that cusp for me is that I know that she comes from this world of banking and finance and all this other stuff. That's what she did. She got away from the ranch. I keep calling it a farm. I'm sorry. She got away from the ranch, and that's when she got her shit together. She got her life together. She was fine. And her coming back is, what set her off in the first season. And as we see her progress through the show, she gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's all has to do with, the trauma of her, mother and everything that happened to her. And we're going to get into all that because there's tons of stuff that's coming up that you have yet to be revealed. And she is an important character because as you start watching the show, you start to realize, oh, John and Casey aren't really the focal point here, or aren't really the stars of the show. It's her. She's running everything. She's kind of a puppet master behind the scenes of sorts in a way.
Well, it's being set up like that. It's being set up like that.
But script is right. They need to do a little bit better job of having her showing us how she's able to do these things. Because you get too many times where she's just able to pull shit out of her back pocket. And that's kind of a Mary Sue element. Yeah.
Yes, it's through her phone. She pulls up her phone. She's like, I know somebody that can solve this problem for me and they owe me a favor. It's like, well, how do they owe you a favor? Like, why are we getting this? Yeah. Well, no, oddly enough, it's mostly women. It's mostly women that she knows in the show. But yeah.
But I think coming up here, she will get a good antagonist too. Like the next couple of seasons, they do a better job of giving her a little bit better stuff. She gets a little bit better, and her relationship with Rip kind of finally gets settled out. Yeah. I don't want to give away spoilers, but I'm saying,
she's starting to figure that out at the end of this season, which I was happy about. Like, I was like, okay, this is like she's heading toward a better direction than a lot of the other characters, like especially Jamie, because I'm like, what the f is happening with this kid? Because I want to get into that, but I want to also just go back for a moment to Monica, because my God, I think it was the second episode. She's teaching a class and she goes off at this white kid
Yeah.
about like how, power is, like how she has power and all this stuff because he like was trying to bully her about being like a teacher there, and she's a young teacher.
She's like
Um,
23. That's the thing.
26. She's 26
Sorry.
because
Yeah.
they figured it out on her license plate later in the episode when she got caught, quote unquote, shoplifting. Which I definitely want to talk about that scene. My God.
Oh God, that was a joke. Yeah.
Oh my God, that scene was so bad. But this scene, I like, it was so cringe. It was so cringe. I was like, is this where we're heading with like Monica? Because this was the second episode. So I was like, is this where we're heading with Monica? Because now I can see these like kind of like wokeisms that Taylor Sheridan has like put in the show. And then he tries to kind of skate by it to be like, no, I'm not woke. I'm just, we're just like exploring these ideas.
Okay, you're gonna start talking about sounding like Jack Posobiec here in a minute.
No,
I will say,
no, I'm saying I can see why. I'm not talking
wonder-
about Tulsa King because this is Yellowstone.
but I wonder why. Here's the thing about this, and I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I asked the question because I'm curious if you guys, it comes off to you this way, is that it feels like these things are somewhat forced into the show.
Yes, this is where I was getting at.
Yeah, like it's not Taylor's doing, so he kind of makes it in a way that comes off really fucking stupid. Because this scene specifically, she comes off as more of a bitch than he does an asshole.
Yes,
really, at the end of the day.
This is what I was getting at, Tom. Like you nailed it because it feels like even this scene felt forced. Like it was like, okay, like I get what you're trying to do because he's trying to say like, oh, she's the one. Like it's like she's the character that has to be the one that's like, kind of like the SJW. Like I'm looking out for the natives. I'm looking out for this, but not that that's a bad thing because that's who she is. She's a native woman and she's growing up in this like very predominantly white neighborhood. Because she's not on the res anymore. But like, it's just, and the things that she's dealing with, but it just feels forced because of who she is. She is married to a Dutton. There's a certain level of respect in that town that comes with a Dutton name. And it's like, she's chosen to like keep her name. So like, people don't know like she's Casey's wife. And it's like this whole thing. And then, so he puts this scene in here, but then he reins it in immediately. It's like right after that, it's like, this kid comes and apologizes to her, like, because she has this like teachable moment about like power and how power is structured and how she has the power because she's the teacher and blah, blah, blah. And,
which is the most irresponsible thing she can do in her position, because I can actually relate to the situation far more, and I have it a lot more difficulty. I was 4 years younger than her and teaching at a private university, and most of my students were older than me, and they knew that, and I knew that was going to be awkward. So I said, "Listen, we're going to do a 1 hour session. You ask me any question, and if I can't answer it, then you have more than enough reason to go to the head of the college and the dean and complain about me." And they did. And they asked me every question and I answered every question and they're all satisfied. And I had to earn my position with them because, again, they're looking at me like this young kid. And I didn't begrudge them for that. But I spent that hour, and it was a 2-hour class. I spent the first half of that class making sure that I earned their trust and respect, so that to know that they're not getting ripped off with the education that they're about to get. And it worked. What she's doing here, she's just saying, I'm the teacher, and that's why you have to respect me. I've got the power. I can fail you. It's like, that's an abuse of your situation and your position at that school. And this is part of the aspect when it comes to status with writers, especially with actors who become writers, is that they like to have fun with the concept of power and hierarchy in positions where they abdicate responsibility, because power comes from responsibility. Like you look at Star Trek, you respect the captains because they're responsible. And the captains that guest star come on in and they end up doing the wrong things, you understand why they're doing the wrong things, because they're abusing their position. And that's kind of the magic as to why we like characters in one regard and not in another. And here they had this awesome opportunity where she could be like, you know what, you've got a point. Let's work it out right here, because I'm the mature student. I earned this. Well, she didn't really earn this position. She was handed it to her because
but
And also because of the tax breaks that the university is going to get because they hired her.
Well, and the funny part is that later on in this season, she is taught that lesson by the native guy we were talking about earlier, like her what's it called, physio teacher or whatever, because he comes and sits on one of her classes where she's like going off about native issues and blah blah blah, and he's like, well, what are you doing to teach them what we're fighting for? And like, what like what are you doing them to show them like what the point of all this is? And she's like, well, I'm not really doing anything. And he's like, well, why don't you take them on a field trip and show them what's going on with our culture? Like show them our culture. Don't show them just, that, like, don't make us just victims. And that's what I mean by like Taylor Sheridan like shows this and then reins it in, like, because it's like as if like, oh, he finds out like that people didn't like that or something like that. So like
Well,
later
like I
on
said,
in
it
the
almost feels
episode,
like he was
reins it in.
forced or somebody else's idea forced upon him almost, because he has a very similar scene to the shoplifting scene in Tulsa King, and I think it's handled much better,
Yes.
Mm,
right? With what's his face, his driver.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Where
that
he
was a
goes
fun
into the
one.
car dealership, and it's more so that he doesn't. The car dealership guy acts that way more so because the guy's flashing cash and he's a young buck kid more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
To where in this, it's like, I have a hard time believing somebody who looks like her walking into a store like that, dressed the way she is going to be treated that way in this day and age. That's very unbelievable. Now, on the other hand, I do love Beth coming in there and having her little whatever moment with that one chick, because clearly they had this like history from school and they throw in her. But that's what I was talking about earlier with
That
you,
was
Script,
crazy.
too, is give us these little things of why. Like you said, why does this
Mhm.
person owe her a favor? Right?
Yeah.
We got
Right.
more out of that scene. And obviously these chicks went to high school together. You know, there's a little bit of, we just got a little bit enough
Mhm.
to make that satisfying. But the
Mhm.
other part of it wasn't, because it's like, why in the fuck would they act that? She there's no reason for them to act that way towards her, as opposed to the Tulsa King scene. Like I said, some young kid, thousands of dollars in cash,
Right.
dressed like a fucking gangster. What the
Mhm.
fuck do you think the guy's gonna think he is? He's a drug dealer. Of course, that's what he thinks he is, right? Like, duh. It makes a little
Yeah.
bit more sense, and the the stereotype can be seen a little easier to where that guy deserves the beat down just for that, right? Like,
Well, and I think in Tulsa King, for me, it was a little bit more obvious because, like, of the way that Sylvester Stallone's character was portrayed, meaning like
well,
he's
yeah, it was
supposed to be a mob boss that's like taking care of
Exactly.
business, and that's what he came off as. Like, that's like no matter what color the skin of that car dealer was, he's gonna get the beaten the shit out of. Like, no matter who he
Well,
was.
as you're saying, like,
Yeah.
it's more or less a result of Sly's actions, right? Because he's the one who told him to do it. He gave him the cash. And this is just because this is where, Sylvester Stallone's character starts to learn that cash doesn't do what it used to. You know, like
Yeah.
back when he was
Cash
younger,
is king.
just flash some cash and you
Yeah.
get treated like a king, like you just said. Nowadays, somebody sees you with that much cash in their hands, are like, who the fuck did you just rob? Are you a drug dealer?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah,
I mean,
but putting Tulsa King aside for a second, back
Yeah.
to this scene.
yeah, sorry.
The context is fine, but the fact that the sales lady just
Mhm.
acquiesces to every single one of Beth's demands and doesn't push back at all is
Mhm.
absurd. And the fact that Beth is breaking stuff and the police aren't even bothering to arrest her for property damage.
Well, they
is-
left. They
I
left.
mean, I'm surprised that they just didn't call him and kept bringing him back. Like, okay, yeah, we were wrong about the girl, but her sister-in-law is actually breaking our property and owes us money, and come get her.
Well, and that part of it,
the thing though is that part I understood because they were saying it's the family name that carries all the weight, and basically that all the police is kind of like paid off by the Duttons to look away whenever they do whatever the fuck
Oh yeah,
they want to do.
that's fine. But
Because-
I'm looking at it from a shop owner that's like, okay, yes, these two went to high school. Yes, they have issues with each other, but you want to have more drama and conflict. It'd make more fun if she pushed back and maybe got to a physical fight or something else, or even the owner came in and says, I don't care if you are the Duttons, there's right and there's wrong.
Mhm.
And even if the cops just decide to get you off, I'm at least getting you out of my damn store, and I'll sue you. And no matter what your weird little pervy brother does, you'll at least lose money in this at the start. It's like just general dramatic stuff to show consequences, because right there, that was a pure power play, and it just
Mhm.
made her appear like God. and it just did not make sense or felt believable at all, regardless of their history, that this 45-year-old woman would undress in the store because Beth tells her to.
Well, I only like I kind of believed that part because of the amount of like I just thought it was because she she was scared of her. She's scared of her and her family. And people do all sorts of shit through fear. Like once there's like fear is involved, then they're gonna do what they're gonna do. And it was kind of like the same thing with the native girl, actually, because when they told her like you got to go strip down so we can find like whatever, I was like, does this girl not know her rights? Like because you don't like from what I understand, you don't have to do that. And Beth literally came in and said the same thing that I was thinking. And she's like, I'm no lawyer, but the Fourth Amendment talks about the improper search and seizure. And it's just like, that's the kind of thing that was unbelievable to me, is that when you are a person that is marrying into this powerful family and you have a character, Jamie, who is a lawyer, you would think that they would kind of sit you down and how like kind of like the royals like tell you like here's the notebook of how you're supposed to deal with everything and like what you do, what you don't do, if you get caught outside, what you do, what you don't do, blah 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 blah. That's I would assume that she would at the very least know her rights. And she didn't. And that felt unbelievable to me, because especially as a native woman, like it just made no fucking sense. I was like,
well, not just that, but like on that note, I mean, they treat her like she's just started with the family, like she's never been a part of this family.
Almost a decade with them,
right?
That's my point exactly. Like their kids, like what, 6, 7, 8 years old at this point. Like
he's 10.
He's 10.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, no. Her acting like it's some big surprise in this whole thing. Like, that's what I'm saying. She's one of the worst written characters. I don't understand sometimes what Taylor's doing with her character. I don't know if it's his fault or one of the other writers. But again, at some point, they must realize it, because she just kind of gets... There's like a switch that's flicked, is the best way I can put it without getting into too much, where she just kind of becomes a normal person and kind of just in the background.
Wow. That's interesting. But yeah, like that scene really bothered me a lot. Like just because the native girl like basically didn't know her rights, that bothered me more than anything, because I'm like, okay, so we're going from like her talking about like she's teaching these kids about like the injustices and like all the stuff. You would think that like being part of that family, she would know her rights, and what that would entail. But apparently she doesn't know shit. And I was like,
yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna have to go.
Wasn't her grandfather like one of the important elders too in the tribe there?
Yes.
Yes, on the reservation. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And like he had dealings with that rainwater person, or
exactly.
Rain?
Yeah, Tom Rainwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rainwater.
Okay. Yeah. I got his name right. I'm like, I didn't mean to offend anybody if it wasn't like Rainwater was something else. Okay, that scene was fucked up. Now, a lot of the other things happened through the season, but I think it all kind of really culminated on episode 7. So I'm gonna get into that right after I read the super chat from 16-bit mascot. Thank you for $5, saying, "Hey, some of my favorite peeps in one place. Hail, hi, thank you for the super chat."
I mean, I call this season the Game of Thrones season, even though I've never seen Game of Thrones. I just assume this is what a lot of Game of Thrones is like, where you have a lot of scheming, siding,
yep,
the enemy of my enemy, frenemy type stuff. Like that's where a lot of that kind of stuff went on in this season, from my recollection, because you had a lot of people who started out as, antagonists, and next thing you know, they're all working together, and it's
right.
like, yeah.
And that's exactly kind of like what happened, because I'll start by saying that the main bad character in this season are two brothers, Malcolm Beck and Teal Beck. And Malcolm Beck is played by Neil McDonough. And freaking love Neil McDonough. So whenever I see him in
What's
anything...
hysterical is that his brother's played by a guy that looks almost identical to the dude from 16 Candles.
Anthony Michael Hall. Every time I see him, it's not him, but I always think it's him.
Yeah,
Because this is the guy that was in Cobra Kai, and I'm like, is that Anthony Michael Hall? And it's not. It's this other
His name
guy.
is Terry Serpico, the guy.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
funny because it's
Wow.
like if you wanted to replace Neil McDonough, you'd put in Anthony Michael Hall and be like, yes, those two are absolutely 100% brothers. But
That's hilarious.
They look too much alike to the point where you wouldn't be able to tell who's who.
Wait, I have to like look this guy up now because I'm bad with names and I don't know who you guys are talking about. Hang on. Now I have to look him up.
He was
Anthony
in the
Michael
Dead Zone
Hall?
TV series.
He's a Russ, the original Russ. on National
Oh,
Lampoon's
that
Vacation.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I know him now. Russ. That's right.
Goofy
That's,
redheaded
yeah,
kid.
yeah, yeah.
Now
The
he's
goofy redheaded kid.
But now he's blonde.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
he's in
you guys are
Halloween
right.
Kills and all those. Yeah, he's in all the Halloween movies.
He does look just like him. That's weird. Okay, they could be brothers. Fucking nuts. Okay. So basically what happens is in this season is that these two bros, who are kind of like competitors and real estate competitors, they figure out that, Thomas Rainwater of Broken Rock Reservation and Dan Jenkins which is the other bad guy from the previous season, and he's a real estate developer of Paradise Valley. Like they are joining forces to make this casino, and these guys are like, well, what the f? Like, excuse me, like what are you doing? Coming on our land.
We own we're on the board of the liquor license distributor. We can make sure you can't sell any booze in your casino.
And they're like all pissed off because they're just power hungry and they want more power and they want more land and blah blah blah. And they're like, we're gonna go to war.
They want the Dutton Ranch, and they do something very skeevy to try and get it.
And so that causes, to the old enemies to become new friends and vice versa, even though when they become friends, they're kind of like not friends. Like John Dutton still told the other guy, like, you're still my enemy. Like, I fucking hate you. I don't know what you're talking about. But it was an interesting thing to like, for them to become allies. And this dude though, like, what's his name? I mean, he can play a bad guy. I mean, in anything, this dude is so good. Malcolm, the guy that played Malcolm. I just said his name and I've already forgotten it. Yeah, that guy.
Oh yeah, he plays a lot of villains recently, but he actually played he played kind of a hero in Star Trek First Contact. He was the helmsman.
Yeah, he did.
He dyed his hair brown for it.
Yeah. Whenever I see him as a good guy, it's very like out of character for me. I'm like, I'm used to you being bad.
He also was the voice of Bruce Banner, the Hulk, in the cartoon series in the 90s as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool. See, I knew him as like Raj Al Ghul from Arrow.
Oh no, he wasn't that. He was Damien Dark.
Yeah, he was Damien Dark. Sorry. Yeah, he
No,
was
okay.
Damien Dark on Arrow, and I was like, oh my god, it's Damien Dark. Like every time I see him, I'm like, it's Damien Dark. But I really like him. He's a good actor. He's a good character in this too. Really kind of made you like, what the f? Although, some of his, let's say, like a couple of things he did, like I totally didn't understand. And I was like, maybe you guys can explain it to me. Because, for example, like the kidnapping of, what was his name? Tate.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I get that you hate John Dutton and I get that you want the land. But like, short of killing this kid, like what is your end purpose here? Like what was he wanting John to do? To like give up the deed to the land in exchange for the grandson's life? Like I don't really understand his end result of like wanting to kidnap the kid.
Yeah, they didn't. It didn't seem like they actually had an end game there, at least from my recollection of it. It's more like, oh, were they just trying to get him off balance, or were they trying to get him? Were they trying to make it like a suicide rescue for them, where they would rush into this gang to try and rescue the kid, but they'd be just slaughtered so that nobody would be left alive to inherit the ranch, and then they just sweep in and take it from the state, which I don't even think the state would want to give it up because they wanted the land for their own.
I'm trying to remember now. Like my recollection of feelings of what was going on was, first of all, obviously it's a power play, but I know between the cattle thing, and I was trying to remember, did they try and make it look like I was gonna say, trying to make it look like the other guys did it, so he would turn them all against the other guys.
They tried to frame
Well,
rainwater, but
that's what I
he
was
didn't
thinking.
fall
Yeah,
for it. Yeah,
they
didn't
did
fall for
that
it.
a couple times, but it didn't work. And then so they kind of
Yeah.
formed like the alliance. But like in the end, even the kidnapping itself, I was like, really? Like that's how you're gonna kidnap the kid? Because it didn't make any sense at all, like the way they kidnapped him. Because it was like he went out at night to feed his horse. And like there was a scene where he like left the pen open, and I was actually like, oh no, you stupid kid, now the horse is gonna get out. And then like
Oh,
you
I
know,
saw that they were going to come get the kid from a mile away. I was just kind of surprised it was more a kidnapping and not just a murder just to get back at John. That's the part that
like
didn't
I
make
didn't
sense
get
to
like
me.
why is it like it should, in my opinion, it should have happened like in the town, not on the fucking land. Like who's sitting there like watching this dude right by the, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just the way that it happened. Like 'cause that's a giant ranch. They would have to come up there with their car, like, you know, and
I was wondering where
kidnap
all the
this
hands
kid.
were and stuff like that. Like the whole thing kind of, like that was my whole thing. And that at first I thought they actually killed him because of the way it kind of come out. Because like that's the only thing that made sense at first. Because like their whole goal was to just hurt John at that point.
Yeah. And that's, he kept saying it. He's like, I'm gonna destroy what he loves. And like I was like, okay, but to what end? Because that like, do you want to get the ranch? Because that's not, he's not gonna give up the ranch if you just kill his grandson.
No,
Like,
but if you kill his grandson, that gives, at that point, that's his only legacy.
Yeah, that's the only
beyond
one
his
who's going
kids.
to be inheriting it. Yeah, that's the only one that is legally is allowed to inherit the ranch after he and Casey are gone.
this is what I'm talking about. Eval, this is what I'm talking about. It's like, how do they know the kid was gonna be outside? So there's like sitting
Yeah.
there in the woods watching for this kid to
Watching,
maybe
waiting.
come outside at some point to feed the horse because he forgot. Like he forgot to feed the horse that night. It's not like he forgets to fucking feed the horse every night. It just made no sense. Like kidnapping scenario made no sense.
The
I was
horse kind of bothers me too as a story element because, correct me if I'm wrong, script, I don't think the horse comes up again after this shit, which is
I think the horse is gone after this. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
What?
it's somewhere wandering around on the ranch, but they can't find. They don't even.
No,
look
they
for it.
did. No, he got him, dude. That like that was
no, but
that
I mean
was-
the horse never comes like up again. Is my point. Like
Yeah, like it's not brought up again at all. Like they completely abandon it.
what?
Kate isn't interested in riding anymore.
He was all like, I want to.
I mean, I guess
cowboy.
off
Can
screen you
buy
could
me a
figure.
horse?"
Okay, I guess I can deduce that off screen, you know, considering the trauma of what happened, Tate probably would never want to, or was kind of like resistant.
Oh, maybe
So
that's
knowing
why.
John, he probably
Okay.
just sold the horse, just so there
Maybe,
was,
yeah.
Okay, that I can get. By
See,
the
and
way,
that's
like,
the thing is, I can get in John's head and think the way he does, and in that sense, his easy answer is to be, well, just get rid of the fucking horse.
and that was like one of the other things too. Like that, I was like, motherfucking Taylor Sheridan just wants to like kill you. Like as you're watching the show, like he just wants to like make you just like destroy your psyche. Because like in that scene where they finally rescue the kid. Like they go into like the bathroom or whatever, and they're not showing the audience what's going on. But then the sheriff comes out, starts holding Casey back, and goes, "You don't want to see this. You don't want to see this." And I'm thinking, "Oh my god, what did they do to this kid?" Like,
Yeah,
oh
I
my
was fully
god,
ready for the kid to be
he's
dead.
dead. Like, what did they do to him? Is he like
They
drugged
shaved
and
his
like
head.
they shaved his head, and he's in fucking bathtub just screaming. And I was like, okay, like
I mean, they do again, like the trauma sticks around for a while. That's at least one thing they do, but.
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah, the whole thing to me was like, okay, it just didn't make no sense either of the kidnapping thing. But like, again, I know they were trying to make John think that all these other guys were turning against him or doing these things when it wasn't.
and okay, so that's why I said like episode 7 kind of culminates like everything that happens in the season in this one episode. But before that, something else really important happened. It was episode 6, and that's when Jamie kills the reporter. And so before then, Jamie, like we know that Jamie wants to, well, like at the beginning of, look, it's I know I'm all over the place, but this is like what happened with like last season, Script Doctor. We talk right about Jamie and Jamie's character and about how he's you know, just kind of like following his father's footsteps because he wants to his approval, like his father's approval.
Jamie
He does
is basically
everything for his
Loki.
father. Hmm?
he is. He is.
Jace, you got to just kind of think of Jamie as like Loki in a weird way. Like he's the guy who
Right.
wants to be the king, but he can't. He
Yes.
ain't got the shit to be the
Right.
king.
Right.
every one of his brothers were
100%.
better than him, and
Except he's not as evil as or conniving as Loki. He's a little cuss.
he'll get there as we start to see
He
here.
tries, yeah.
Okay,
He
well, I
tries.
mean, at least right now.
Oh yeah, definitely Loki's much better at being a villain, if you mean that. Yes.
Yes.
Like, with conviction.
Because
This guy's
right
not.
now
No.
he's a bitch. And I'm like, dude, okay, do
Yeah.
something. At least do something. Because in the first season, it was like he was setting him up. It was like Taylor was setting up Jamie to be the rival brother, to like, he's going to be the rival brother. He's going to want to take the land from Casey. Like that's how it was getting set up. And that's why he's betraying his family to like, talk to the reporter and going with that other woman. And he's like, I'm going to do my campaign, even though my daddy told me not to, even though he told me to do it from the beginning, but then he changed his mind and told me not to do it. And then blah, blah, blah. And then the sister's like, come back home, Jamie. We love you. And blah, blah, blah. Let's be a family again. And then he does it. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to go back to the family. And then like literally like that same day, the chick is like, why'd you come back? I hate you. What? Like, you shouldn't have listened to me. And he's like, well, you told me to come back. And she's like, you should know better than to listen to me. I was like, what is this fucking dialogue? Like, what the hell? Like, I can't deal with how Jamie is being portrayed as this, like, one day he's like this bad guy. The next day I'm supposed to feel sorry for him because like nobody fucking cares.
A lot of
about
shit
him.
will make sense when he gets there. Like, I understand where you're coming from, Nina. There's a
Mhm.
lot of frustration with Jamie. But sooner or later, all will be making much more sense. Like
more will be made sense with regards to Beth and Jamie. We're still not figuring out why Jamie's such a dumbass.
To a
Okay.
point, yes. Like he's still Jamie. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But like,
Okay, well, let's talk about episode 6 then, because in episode 6, you kind of understand a little bit about how Jamie can be a fucked up person. Like
he's
killed that
conflicted right
woman.
now. He's at this point where he wants to be his own man, but he's still afraid to be on his own. He kills that lady to get back in his dad's good graces, basically. But to stop that story from getting out.
Yep. To stop the story. And she was like, I'm going to destroy you. And he's like, well, then I'm going to have to kill you. Like, and it was weird though, because like it's like, at first it was like the way the killing happened, it was as if he reacted to her being like, I'm going to destroy your fucking family. And then he's just like, oh, like, and then he just goes and like smashes her head against the car. And it doesn't, like, obviously she doesn't die. She's just like, kind of like dazed on the ground. So he realizes he's got to finish the job or like let her live and take her to the hospital. And he decides to finish the job by choking her. And I'm like, and that takes a lot, like for a person to choke another human being. It's not even like a gun. It's like, you're literally taking a person's life in your hands. And that to me, like, speaks like, this guy's kind of like even more fucked up than Casey in some ways, even more fucked up than the sister.
My problem with that scene though, is that she's like, as big as he is, she would have been able to fight him off.
Yeah. And also like the choking literally lasted for like maybe.
Yeah. It was one of the lamest kills ever.
I was like, well, how does she die like so fucking fast? Because it takes a minute before like the air escapes out of your lungs and you are fighting for your life. Like she barely fought him off. But
that's
it was
what I was thinking.
I mean,
too.
maybe she's partially concussed from that. But
but she did get hit really hard in the head because she got smashed in the face.
You guys got to forgive me. It's actually been like, God, what, three almost months now since I've seen this, maybe 4.
No worries. Don't worry about it, Tom. You're doing really good.
And I watched them all in like a binge over a couple weeks. So like a lot of it like seeps into the other.
Show
I'm trying not to do that so that I can like stay with this kind of stream and just go along as the seasons is going along. Because if I let myself, I'll just be caught up like season 5 and then we'll just be talking about the whole series like in one stream, and it takes like 5 hours to talk about the entire series. So I'm trying to pace myself. 201 Studios for $2 says, Nina, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias. Buenas noches to you.
So, I didn't really get to hear your thoughts on the first season because sadly I missed out on that one. But I'm surprised to hear how conflicted you are with the second. Yeah. Because now I'm curious how you're going to feel about the third. Because, like, that's the thing is this show goes farther and farther down that rabbit hole now.
It's pretty crazy. But, like, again, like with Rip, for example, last season, I was just kind of like, okay, like this dude's
He's my
weird.
second favorite character on the show.
I really like Rip. I'm starting to really like. I
Which is
think
funny
Rip
because you
is
like
probably
Rip,
one of
but you
my
got a
favorite.
problem with but you got a problem with John. When Rip will kill somebody indiscriminately sometimes, almost like
Because of his upbringing, of what happened with John Dutton, the psycho, and how he's raised
oh,
him.
he was already damaged before John.
I mean, that's
Yes, he was.
true, but that's the idea of like how like
No, I
my,
get you. I'm just giving you shit.
but
Nina,
my
but
thought process with regards to John Dutton is that he keeps complaining about how his kids are useless, and I'm like, the reason your kids are useless is because you raised them useless. Like, it's not because they're, kids just
He
don't
also-
turn out like that.
The other part too is he's also treating his kids more like employees and staff than his
yes.
children.
Well, that's
Mhm.
part of his sin, right? Like, and
Yeah.
he's learning that with his grandkid. That's part of the
yeah, and that was that was
character.
actually a line in this scene in this series where in the season when the wife, Casey's wife Monica, was like in bed, and then right before they're about to head off to go kill Jimmy's gang or whatever, she's like, what are you doing, and where's Tate? And she's like, oh, he's having dinner with he's being grandfathered, was the line. And he goes, oh, that, like, he's spending way more time with him than he ever did with us. And
That's
she got all
typical
mad.
grandfather, yeah.
She got all mad because she was all like, that's not funny. Like, that's something you have to like explore when you have a chance. And I was like thinking to myself, like, thank you, because that's why you're so fucking damaged, because this dude literally damaged all of you. You're all weird.
Here's my point. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but did we have that scene yet, or is this later on where John and Monica have a bit of a heart-to-heart? It has to do with the branding. Did we get to that yet?
Yes, that was season 1.
Where she okay, I couldn't remember if that was in season 1, 2, or 3, where she asks about what's the deal with the branding.
Yeah, that was season 1.
And John actually tells her why Casey is branded.
Mm-hmm.
That scene is him telling her that because he regrets it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have to understand that about him. He is growing as a person. In the twilight of his life, he is now seeing all the things you're saying, Nina.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love this character, is because he's a man who has been so self-centered about this ranch for his entire life that him and the ranch are completely indistinguishable between the two. And he has forgotten to be a father.
And you get that in the final scene that he has with his father in the final episode, because his father's kind of like telling him, like, I'm dying now, and like, this is what you're gonna remember, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I get that what they're trying to portray with him. I just think he still makes all the wrong decisions. Like, for example, with Jamie, like, even now, like when the episode talked about like so Jamie kills the reporter. The sister tells Jamie, go off yourself. Like I don't like, nobody fucking likes you. And everyone's gonna figure out who you are. I don't know what's going on still, right? So I'm like, I'm just going on for the ride. With season 2.
I'm trying to remember how much of Beth's history they've shown yet at this point. Like,
They've shown none of it. It's
barely
all-
anything.
Okay, so
Like,
you don't know. Yeah, okay, so you don't know shit. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Yeah.
Like, the only thing they've shown is her like basically killing the mom, and I'm putting killing.
Okay, so you've seen that much at least. All
yeah,
right.
that's it. That was in the first season. They didn't show anything
Because there's like 2 or 3 other huge revelations coming up for you then yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't
There's
wait for
one
that.
makes you like Rip even more.
Yeah.
I really like Rip already. I mean, he saved her from getting raped.
If there was a Mary Sue for men, that he'd be the Mary Stu of the
He'd
series. But I
be
love
that.
him.
He's almost a Gary Stu, yeah, but some other stuff is
Gary
he's earned
Stu?
that.
Is that what
Yeah,
you just
Gary
said?
Stu. I think that's the term. Yeah.
I
The thing
didn't
is
know
that
that.
as you learn more about Rip, you realize how much crap he's gone through to get to the position he's in.
Yes.
That's the thing though. They've shown more Rip background than they have with her. So that's why I like Rip more.
He
Because I
sprinkles
get
it out,
him.
and I like that part because what that does is it allows, and that's getting into the good parts of what Taylor does with his writing. And I don't know if script agrees or not, but he's able to let a lot happen in the current day, but he only sprinkles us with little tidbits of why these people are the way they are now. And I like that aspect of it, instead of me waiting for something to happen in the show. and getting bogged down with a bunch of backstory up front.
What and
Yeah,
and
he doesn't front load the backstory. He already knows it, and he lets that inform the dialogue of the characters. And then
mm,
if there's something that he doesn't want to explain through dialogue directly, he will do and he very disciplined short flashback, like
Yes.
usually nothing more than 2 minutes.
I don't know how I feel about that yet because a part of me is like, I want to know the backstory of why, why does she hate Jamie so much? Like, I
You
feel
get
like
to know
I
when you
need a
need to
little
know.
bit. I know, but
Well,
I feel like I need to
you
know
should have
now.
been no, they should have introduced that in the first season, but they don't. And I think it has to do with the fact that maybe Taylor Sheridan didn't know exactly why yet.
Could be.
Okay.
But the audience
we get
likes
it in
reveals
season 3.
script.
Yeah.
And I know from your
They do.
standpoint as a writer, yeah, but you gotta, and that's the thing is, even some of the things that I would have to agree with you 100% wholeheartedly as far as like from a writing standpoint, from any kind of like storytelling standpoint, even maybe from certain character standpoints and how they would act, he's really good at that, throwing the whole thing idea of that out of the window, and it doesn't matter because, like, you even made a point about the ox in 1883, and I said, guess what, it doesn't fucking matter.
Mhm.
I know that bothered you, but it didn't bother me at that point because the rest of it was fine.
Well, it bothered me because I'm watching the show. I'm just like, they wouldn't have all these problems if they stuck with the oxen.
You could be right to a point, but like at that point, the whole thing was doomed from the start. Was the point?
Yes.
Well, and this is my point about John's relationship with his kids and like how, like, you say he's changed, but he really hasn't. Like, maybe he's changed towards his grandson, but he hasn't changed towards his kids. And like in episode 7, it kind of demonstrated that already. And then this is what I'm talking about when I say that John Dutton's a psychopath, because he doesn't really understand what it means to, first of all, love, like, because that's, psychopaths don't know how to love. And they don't understand that he's the driving factor of why Jamie is a miserable piece of shit. And it's like it shows that scene in it beautifully. Like, Taylor Sheridan does a beautiful job in showing what a psychopathic father does to his son, because in the scene where he's like wanting to commit suicide, John Dutton shows up and then is like, it's okay, son. You can become a new person. He says to him, I should have never let you go to school. I should have kept you here and let you, be here for a little bit longer. And you can do that now. You can become a new person. And then later that night, he tells him, I need you to be a lawyer now. Like, it's like,
yeah.
It's the same thing. It's that same cycle that he does over and over to these kids. And it's like, literally to a point where the kid's at a brink of committing suicide. And then he comes back and tells them, like, it's okay. Like, I'm the one you love. And that's why they keep going back to him.
Sadly,
well,
Nino,
it's a psychological manipulative technique of nudging. So he's basically nudges the kid to the point where he's going to kill himself. And he's like, okay, I'm going to bring him back, get him comfortable, and then I'm going to nudge him just do a slight nudge back to being the lawyer again, because it's not so much that it's his family, it's that Jamie is well educated in law, very knowledgeable. He knows how to talk his way out of problems. And John needs that more than he needs his son. And that's the only reason why he's appealing to him here. He's like, I need him as a lawyer. I don't care about him as my son. Even though John Dutton tells himself that he does, none of his actions ever denote that.
Right. He does the same thing to Rip later on in this season. And sorry, go ahead, Tom.
As I say, and some of this might make more sense later on, but again, like, you're not wrong. And at this point, I think John knows that the damage is done, and script is right. He treats his kids like they're employees, and that's part of the problem. And again, I don't know how far they're going to take that with his character yet. We've got to wait to see where it all goes, especially if he even winds up being any farther than he is so far. But like, yeah, to me, I see it like it's all about his sins and what he is manipulating, and it's no different than those sad parents who don't realize till too late that they're living vicariously through their kids in one way or another, or pushing them too hard in sports or academia, and not realizing the damage that it's having on this kid. But also at the same time, John realizes it doesn't matter anymore. These guys are adults. So he does also expect them to act like adults at the same time.
And then I was going to say, he does the same thing to Rip Tom, in a sense that like later in this season, in the last episode, when he finally gives Beth that piece of paper, which by the way is kind of like the signal for me, because you guys are saying like how she's the one running the show. But that's these seeds have been planted already, that she's the one that has control of the trust. She's the one that has control of the deed, of the land. She's the one that has control of all of the little important things that you need to run an actual fucking ranch. And he gives her that piece of paper for Rip. And he's written this thing to Rip about how like you're basically my son. Like, you're my son and I love you. And like, at first I was like, wait, is he giving him is he giving him the ranch? Because it was really like, it made no sense. I was like, is he saying like when I die, like you're gonna get the ranch? Which by the way, I think it should actually go to fucking Rip. He's the one that's stuck around the longest, and he's the one that has cleaned up all of his messes. He's the one that takes care of the horses. He's the one that like actually gives a shit about that place.
Yeah, but you got to think of Rip as kind of like the Alfred in this situation too, in a weird way.
Sure, but I mean, like, but in a sense, he's the one that's earned it versus the kids. Now he gives him this letter, right? And then he gives it like, and then I'm like, so what does he mean? He's giving him the land, and then I realized like 2 seconds later, like, no, he's giving him this like fucking like the shed or whatever it was, like the shed house.
It's one of the earlier houses of. It's one of the earlier houses of the ranch. I
was trying to figure it out. Script. I think it was actually his older son's house, if I'm not mistaken.
There's two.
Because there is a couple. Yeah, because I couldn't remember. Yeah.
So his oldest son's house, which is the one that John moves into when Casey and Monica go in, and then there's an older one that was there at the earlier days of the ranch. And I think it's the one that Harrison Ford's family they established first, but then they moved into one that you see in this show because that's
Harrison Ford actually built the house they live in now, right?
Yeah. So that house there, I think, is the starter house, one of the first ones on the ranch.
So that'd have been the one Tim McGraw built.
Well, I mean, either way, maybe, I was like, how can these people not have like they have all this land and they have what, like 2 houses on the land? What the fuck?
There's a few more than that, actually.
There's a few more. But the one thing that's kind of weird, and Tom, you brought this up, and you're absolutely right, is they don't have a huge staff for this ranch.
They don't.
They have a staff, but it's not very big. Yeah, they got a cook, they've got their hands, and they have people who come in and out.
Like 6 or 7 of them,
right? And then they otherwise have like other people who come in and out periodically. But like, yeah, you would think they would have at least 2 or 3 times this amount of people working.
When he was saying I can't pay him, he was saying I can't pay him. I don't make enough, and that's what we were talking about last time, Script Doctor. That like he just doesn't know how to use the fucking ranch to make money because there's a lot of things.
It's funny you say that because that's kind of where Beth becomes more of an important character too.
No, Beth
starts to realize that.
But
I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
I mentioned last time we were streaming is like, I don't think John actually sells his cattle properly. I think he sells it to someone else, and then that person turns it over for like 3 or 4 times the profit because they're selling it to like the slaughterhouse. But John isn't doing that, and I'm like, why?
No.
Why isn't he doing that? Isn't that something that they should have been doing from the beginning?
Yeah, and we were talking about like how he could like harvest.
I think he even says
cow semen too.
I don't remember when he says it, like, but he had said at some point something along the lines of like, yeah, I'm a horrible businessman, but I'm a good rancher, right?
Yeah,
like,
he did say that.
Yeah, so like, and then that's what I said. Beth does start to figure out ways to maximize profits.
Now,
because we have this much land, that much cattle, and the good stock. You should be netting in a few $1 million minimum a year. Because again, property taxes for a ranch that size would be huge. But like he should be doing really well.
Yeah, he should be.
It's like
you really should be, man. You really
Funnily
should.
Not. Well, I mean, he's doing okay, but that's just it. It's like clearly you're right, Script. He should be doing much, much better than this. And honestly, I think not to get too far ahead, I wonder if this isn't where Matthew McConaughey's character is going to come in. Because not to spoil anything, but I did say this already on Toxic Femme, so you already heard me say it. But like I said, because they're talking about the beef business and him being a Texas boy, I'm curious if he's either going to be on the 4-6's show or if he's going to be their beef guy. That's what I wonder. Now, and that's the thing is if Kevin Costner doesn't come back, and it is on the Paramount Network, but it's not on Paramount Plus. And the thing is, with it not being on Paramount Plus, at least in the US, that's a big black eye for Paramount Plus. Now, if they change this show, let's say like if they get rid of John and they change the show and just have all the other characters come back but him, That's a way that Paramount Plus can move the show, or they can move the show to Paramount Plus, possibly
Well,
by
it's
branding it
season's
as a
on
completely
Paramount
different
Plus.
show.
Hang on a second, guys. We have another guest joining us. It's Jane Theory. Hi,
Hey,
Jane.
Jane.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Happy to be here. Doing good.
Good. So we're discussing season 2.
Yeah.
And I was about to just say something about this character here. Now, this is the other thing I was talking about, Tom, because in this scene, it comes back to John Dutton's how fucking psycho he is, because it goes, he's like, here's the letter. I think of you as a son. And then later that night, he's like, motherfucker, you're going to be my tank. You're going to go in on a horse and take fire from my actual sons, because I can't send in my actual son because I love him. Like he's gonna be the ranch owner. So you're gonna go in and you're gonna take the fire, which by the way made absolutely no sense tactically, because I was like, why would you go in on a horse when you have these giant ass trucks? Because they're like, we don't have actual tanks, and I'm like, yeah, but you have a fucking what was it, a ram.
Yeah.
You got a ram. You can still like put on some fucking shits on the, the like metal stuff on the windshield.
It's not as cool, Nina. You're thinking too logically
They
again.
can hear a car from a lot further away than
That
they
too.
can hear the gallops.
They were right there, script
But-
doctor.
I think a lot of the conflict, though, in the show and a lot of the strategy, the war strategy that they implement, doesn't really work.
No,
But
it did not work, dude. They were right there. Like it was
Yeah.
like literally like 10 meters, and they're like, and the native guy's putting the shit on the horse, and he's like, yeah, like, this is so he's like speedy, and this is so he doesn't get shot, and blah blah blah,
You're thinking too logically.
all the
again.
stuff.
yeah.
And then like literally like 2 seconds later, like literally like right there, he didn't even go that far in, they start shooting at him, and I'm like, so they're just like waiting for these guys to get ready to go. Like what were they doing? Yeah, that made no sense. The tactical aspect was like, what? And then it was weird to me though too, because they keep talking about how Casey is in the military. I'm like, you were in the military, but this is your tactic? Like, I'm going into this place. What the F? Jane, what did you think of this season? You're joining us kind of late, but
Yeah. I
Let us
love this
know.
season.
okay.
I'm on board with almost every season except the one we're currently in. I feel like they just sort of run out of ideas. But I enjoyed it. I felt like we were learning more and more about the characters. It was a great expansion on their stories.
Did you like what happened with Jamie's character? Because I was frustrated because Jamie killed that reporter and then decided to like listen to his sister, go back to the family, then was told to go off himself.
The whole his story and that with his sister, I don't get. I mean, it's like he never learns. And I
doesn't,
don't understand why. By now, she's been doing this from what we can tell ever since they were kids.
Yep.
So, like, why have you not figured her out? She knows how to push his buttons. She knows what to do to basically destroy him mentally. But
Mhm.
he's learned nothing about how to deal with her.
I
Yeah.
think that part of his issue is kind of the same thing with his dad. Is he thinks that at some point something he'll do will get her to like him or get her to accept him in some way. And
Mm.
of course, like, again, not to get into it in the weeds, but once we find out more about their history, it's like, obviously that'll never happen. But, it's just one of those things where I feel like that's what he's been trying to do anyway, since the beginning.
We also still haven't really gone fully into the attack that Beth faced. That episode effed me up because I was like, holy shit. Like, like just seeing a woman get beat like that is you don't see that every day on a TV show anymore. So I was like, it was very shocking. Not that I didn't like the scene. I was just saying it was just a very shocking scene, and I think very powerful performance from the actress. I think she did a really good job dealing with it too. Like the part where the rapist guy's like on top of her, and she's
Mhm.
like, Oh, like, dude, she had like the best line. She was like, "Yeah, why don't you fucking do it? Oh, you want me to be scared?" Like, oh, I was like, "Oh my god, this girl's so crazy and hardcore." I would. Is it weird that I hope that I could be like that if I was ever put in a situation like in that
Well,
sense?
and I think that's why people like Beth. Is she is, even though she does have a lot of Mary Sue-isms, she is a very likable person in a respect that she lives out a lot of the fantasies that I'm sure a lot of people would love to live out in their. And I don't
Mm,
mean that's something they want to fantasize about, but I'm talking about like the other
wish that
scenes
they had
earlier
her
we were talking
confidence
about.
and knowledge
the
and stuff.
confidence
And
and
yeah,
power.
I think the whole family does. Well, not the whole family, but I think that's what John is trying to instill in his family. Like you get the sense that
Mhm,
he wants them to be brick walls, like impenetrable. Just the type of people who you cannot defeat on your best day. That is who he's trying to build to protect his family and to protect their property. She exhibits that in some ways, but in other ways, she's hyper emotional
mhm.
and just fall in the way she's tormenting Jamie, for example. It's very immature, but it's also a weakness, a vulnerability for her that she
Mhm.
needs to let go
well,
of.
it's the trauma of her past coming home to roost, right? Like that's the thing is like I was pointing out earlier before you got here, Jane.
Hmm.
First season, we see her in her original element. She's great. She comes back home,
Mhm.
things start going downhill quickly.
Right, right.
And throughout the show, we see her kind of recover from time to time with Rip in certain ways, but then there's always something that kind of puts her back in this lapse. And that's where, from a psychological point of view, from the, 2 or 3 credits I got in psychology or whatever it is, uh,
Mhm.
clearly she's reverting back to this childhood mentality when she
Yeah.
keeps going down this deeper hole of what she's dealing with in her past because she's never faced all of it,
And
right?
I
Like
think
that's the whole thing. But yeah,
that's the
Mm,
bit of realism I think they're trying to inject into it. But when we were talking before about, the fantasy that they are, I
mhm.
think that's what he's wanting to build up. He wants his family to be almost
right.
mythical, and yet it keeps nobody does what he says. That's the problem.
He's a
Well,
terrible
Beth tries
person,
to,
Jane.
but like, yeah, that's the thing is when you look at the show, and that's part of the reason why I like Beth too, is because she does serve the main character, in my opinion, as Kevin Costner, and in a way becomes kind of the more focal point after a while too. But that's just it. She's the only one who, at the true heart of it all, is loyal to her dad to a fault, and everything she does is basically for him, outside of the few random things she does for herself throughout the show. And again, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds because of Nina not seeing all the show, but
Mhm. I
you'll see
appreciate that.
as it goes along. But like you're seeing the building blocks now that are built up to who this character is slowly gonna end up becoming, I guess,
And
is a
maybe you
better
can
part
come
of it.
back and talk about season 3 next week, Tom, because that's
I hope
probably
to.
what we're going to be doing. Now one more thing about Jamie that we haven't really talked about. We find out that he knocked up this bitch. So I was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
obviously.
that's a new one." And she's all, "You got 9 months to figure out your business, boy, cuz you're going to be a daddy." And I was like, "Okay." Like
This
he's
is one of the other worst characters. This is another character where Taylor does not understand women.
Yeah.
I don't like her at all.
She is one of the most inconsistent characters on top of it all. But yeah,
Oh, really? Like, are we gonna get more from her in the next season?
There's more, but
Eh,
If anything, I feel like she is really bad for him, and I think you get the sense of
yes.
that from this very conversation. But
Oh,
what's funny
she's
is I didn't
terrible.
know he was straight until this conversation.
that may
It's
have been the
funny you
first woman
mentioned
he
that,
ever
Jane.
slept
What?
with. Yeah.
It is true because like when we were having this conversation the other day on, I don't remember which stream because it was brought up, the whole Jack Posobiec thing. And I'm
Mhm.
like, look, there's stuff in the show, but like if you actually watch the fucking show, it's not what they say it is. Because I actually thought Jamie was gay
I
until he
thought
doinked
so
this chick.
too. But I
And it's
thought
not like a
so.
bad thing or anything. It's just the way he carries himself. I just figured they just never made a big deal out of it. But some of the cracks that Beth makes and the ones he just takes without any kind of retaliation. But then again, you start to learn later on why he doesn't retaliate so much. But point being is like she was making these cracks at him like, oh, I guess he's gay.
Yeah, like he kept saying, "You're gay, you're gay, you're gay." So I kept thinking, okay, he's probably gay. Like maybe he's in the closet because he doesn't want his dad to
Yeah.
know that he's not going to produce another, male
That's what I thought too for the whole
person.
first season or whatever. Like, yeah.
I thought he was gay too, and then he knocked this bitch up, and I was like, well, I guess like they're not. I mean, like, but before that, Jane, like in the first season, like he started sleeping with her, and I was like, so
Yeah,
is he in
until she came into the
denial?
picture anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, but
No,
I
I
was
think he's not. I think she was just making cracks at him, but we're just so used to them not resorting to like you would never see that in any other show.
Right.
You would never see them use that shit in a derogatory way, the way that she was doing that to him. And that was just basically Taylor Sheridan not being woke.
Well,
Like,
and like, but that's the thing. Like, I actually wouldn't be surprised if he came out as gay at some point in
I
the
don't
series.
think he is. I
Like, I'd
really
be
don't
like,
think
oh,
he
I
I'm
don't
is.
think he is. I think that woman he knocked up was the very first woman he was ever with.
oh god.
That's
Like
very true,
Jimmy,
but
I can
that
believe
Jimmy
that.
character who when he got he got his girlfriend after the Bronco riding.
I
yeah,
can
I think
believe-
Chris Script is right.
I can believe that, but it does shock me though that he got her pregnant out of wedlock.
Yes, because
He
that was
seems
the
like
other thing,
type,
Jane.
either he would be gay or he would be very honest and faithful and honorable and all that stuff.
No,
But
I'm more
He's a
like,
lawyer
Howard.
too.
but I'm more like concerned about the fact that like this is what I was saying about the native girl and how like no one sat down to tell these people the rules of how you conduct yourself, because in this instance, here's this dude who wants his father's approval, a very traditional man, a very obviously had problems with Casey marrying the native girl and like all this stuff, right? So he's going off, banging this girl. Like, I'm not saying like, he shouldn't be banging her out of wedlock or whatever, but at least wear protection. Like, you don't want to reproduce with someone you don't know is going to be part of the family later on. Like, that's the kind of
Exactly.
thing that I don't get. Like, I'm like,
I think
okay, you
that's
want to
just
sleep
showing
with
that
her, that's
Jamie is
one
a kind
thing.
of irresponsible.
He's an
And-
irresponsible. He's a coward,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's very
Um,
much a coward.
and he goes for easy things. That's the other part too. Like
Yeah.
the only time he ever has to deal with something difficult is at he has to his father. Everything else around that he takes the easy route. And so when he has this woman basically just throw herself at him, he's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's like, all right.
Not
I'm
only
down.
that, in the sense of what you're just saying, Script, he has a bit of a power thing over her at first too, because she works for him.
This is true. This
But
is
you
true.
would think that he would I guess I feel like the Duttons are creating, at least in their minds, royalty. So you
Mhm.
would think that he would want his father's approval even to be her and to have a child with her.
At
But-
that point, though, he's kind of out of his graces, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But,
It just
but
seems very risky because I feel like John would kill that kid if he didn't like her.
that's what I'm saying. And that's what he
No.
said to her. Jamie said that to her. He's like, don't tell anyone it's my kid because my father is not going to approve and you don't know what he's capable of. And he's like, she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I don't know what I mean. I just
No,
don't
here's the
tell
thing.
her.
It's not so much that as I think it's not so much that as John would actually more or less probably try to get custody of the kid is what I think I'd be more worried about now. But
Take
like,
the child from both of them.
yes.
Well, and that's the
Well,
other thing,
because
right?
John is changing, and that's what we were talking about just before you got here, Jane, is that scene where he tells Monica the truth about the whole branding thing and why and everything like that. And he told him go get an abortion, and
Yep.
he said no,
Mhm.
and that was him kind of telling her that because he regrets it now. Clearly
he actually
sees,
loves Tate. He really does.
Yes.
love
He
that kid.
does
Yes.
love that kid. He does love
and he's
that
starting
kid.
to actually learn what it is to love somebody that because you're right, Nina. Like he has done fucked up his kids.
Yeah.
Like, and he's learning that slowly, but like
Very. Yeah.
yeah. So clearly, if he finds out he has another grandkid, there is no way he's going to let anything happen to that other grandkid, right? Like that's what I'm saying.
Meaning
Regardless,
meaning that kid's gonna be raised on the ranch. Like he's not gonna let this kid, go because he really didn't have a choice with regards to the other girl because she's native. So she can go live on the res and he really didn't, he wouldn't have a say. But in this case, he does have a say. So it would be like, okay, you guys are living on the ranch and you're not going anywhere. But the reason that she even told him she was pregnant is because she was scared that he's gonna kill her. And by he, I mean Jamie, not
Mhm.
John.
Because she suspects that he killed the journalist.
Yes. And she goes, I know the same things, she did. Like, are you going to kill me too? And he's like, no, I would never kill you.
Yes, he
And she-
would.
yeah. And
He
I'm like,
would.
yeah, you fucking would. And then she goes, good, because I'm pregnant. I was like, oh, damn. Like, I wonder if she's
Literally
just,
saved her life.
I know, but I wonder if she, like, for a second, I wonder if she was playing that card like she's not really pregnant and she's just like, I'm pregnant. So please don't fucking kill
Well,
me because
here's
I'm
the other
carrying your
thing that I'm
child.
curious about, and that is, like she left him for quite a bit.
Mhm.
Mhm.
She could have been with someone else and
I
got
was thinking
pregnant
the
and
same
then
thing,
used
Script.
that
Right?
to keep herself alive with Jamie. We don't know, and this isn't a spoiler for any of the other scenes because it hasn't been addressed yet. But we don't even know if that's still the truth up until later.
Ooh, see, I would have been like paternity test like immediately, like now.
Immediately.
Yeah,
Oh,
if they
yeah.
did, they didn't address it anyway because, like, yeah, there's where this is going and where the kid, you know, with the whole thing with the kid. Like I said, if John were to find out, I think that would be what he would do. But at this point,
But
it's still up in the air. So
I think Jamie too, probably, you know how like a lot of people who have trauma want a child because they want it to love them.
Yes.
Even if it's not his child, he would probably not even want to know.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Because and he also like has seen how John raised Rip and how Rip became part of their family.
Mhm.
And so maybe like he doesn't really have a problem with something like that. And in this scene, and then actually in this I think it was in this episode where he, you know, or the previous episode, because he asked Rip to help him like bury the body or whatever. Well, not bury, but you know, get rid of the body. And he was like, you know, I always respected you. I need your help. And he's just like, okay, like he's like, I always treated you as an equal. Now, Jane, I would like your opinion also because you joined us late and we already talked about it, but I would like your opinion on the shoplifting scene with Monica. Can you give us your take about what the fuck happened?
I felt like it was a great scene. I mean, I think it was put in there just to show how the Indians in that area are still being treated. Just to
Mhm,
show like the position that they're in, what they're up against, and why they're fighting so hard.
mhm.
Because these people have basically come into their land and are discriminating against them.
Okay. And then, but didn't you feel like, because I felt like this girl was kind of dumb. Like it's like you don't know your rights. Like when they were gonna strip search her, I was like, oh come on, like that, like you don't like that.
No, this has
No,
happened. A lot of people don't know. They have no idea what their rights are, and the people have been put through this, where they've been strip searched at stores and things like that by they're supposed to like call in a female, and there are all sorts of procedures depending on the state. But
Mhm.
this has happened to people. Like this is a real experience, and she
Okay.
seems like she's very naive and fearful of what could happen if she had tried to fight back right there in the store.
Right. But I mean, like, and I was saying that this is, and again, I'm blaming John Dutton for this, but I'm saying like, you know, this is the kind of thing that you would think that would be part of when you become part of that family, that like Jamie or someone would sit her down and be like,
Yeah.
look, if something like this happened to you, these are your rights. This is who you call. This is what you do. Blah 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 blah. Like you
I-
have to like train them.
I
what to do.
agree. I think, and I honestly, I felt the same way about like the whole Harry and Meghan situation. I felt like
Mhm.
she should have been told not only what her rights are, but what her power is as a part of this family. Everything her sister-in-law did, she could have done.
Right.
She had that. I mean, she has the name behind. She wasn't going by her name though.
That
That's why they didn't
exactly.
know. But she's not using her authority. She's trying to be a regular person. And that's her thing. She doesn't want to lose who she is and stay grounded and all that. But I'm like, you have married a Dutton. You have birthed
Thank
the
you.
heir to that. Like, you rule this land. What is wrong with you?
Well,
Yeah,
here's my issue with it was so much more that at this point, this is what I brought up. It's not so much that it would happen or not so much as at this, she's been with this family for almost 10 years now or better, at least that we know of. Don't you think most people around there would know who the fuck she is at this point?
If they've
Like,
been
that's-
living on the res, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, they go to
She
town
never
though,
went to
Jane.
town.
Yeah.
Like never
But
went to town, not
if
once.
they haven't gone together, and if she hasn't been going in
But
this
if the
expensive
Duttons are such a
store,
big family, and don't you think they would know who Casey Dutton is married to? I mean, I to me it just seemed that was
Yeah,
my
it
only
seems
issue
off
with
to
it,
me
but-
too.
that's a
Because
good point because they did show that she and the sister have a history, the sister-in-law, Beth. So
Mhm.
yeah, she actually should have known. That's a good point.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too. Like, yeah, it's a small town, but small towns like know who's who. That's the other thing. Like, it's like they're not gonna fuck with you if they know you're part of the Dutton family. Like, it was all very shocking to me because the second Beth showed up, this chick was like, first name basis. Like, hey Beth, like you don't want to be here. You're like, how do you not know that that's Casey's wife? Like, if you know this girl, like, you would know who her brother married. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was
But again, I think they were just trying to
weird
insert
scene.
that.
I mean, if they had just
show the
gotten married,
family.
I would understand, Jane. I mean, but like
Mhm.
that's my
Mhm.
point. Is like they've got almost a 10-year-old kid or whatever it is at this point, and yeah.
Yeah. But that's interesting. I just wanted to get your perspective on that, Jade. I
Well, I
actually
mean,
really
I guess isn't the res supposed to be a little ways away from the ranch? I mean, they never really
a little bit, but they're on the same
they've never
and
really
they're in
give
the
us
same
a
town.
specific they've never give us a specific
Well-
idea, but they always make it seem like they got to drive a good hour or so between each. It really kind of feels like they've never given us an idea where they're
They
at, though.
describe the ranch as the size of somewhere, and I don't remember what city or state it was, but apparently his territory is huge.
Yeah.
And it was beside it. So it could be that it could be like an hour just to get outside his property.
Yep. And
Get
I believe
somewhere.
that because I lived on the ranch
Well, because she says some
in Canada.
when they
And-
get not to get ahead, but they get a house at some point, and they say something about it's like halfway between her school and the ranch. So because that's where Casey's at or whatever working. So like, yeah, I can't remember exactly where it's at, but they say something about it being like a hour drive or something or other. So you might be right, Jane. It's just to get out of the area
Yeah.
of the Yellowstone might be a long drive itself.
Dude, I believe that because when I was in Canada, we had a farm and but our farm was like in the middle, like on top of a mountain. So we had to drive down like 25 minutes just to get down to the mountain so that we can go to the city. Like
So-
it was
They
It
say
was
it's the
hard.
size of Rhode Island.
Oh wow, like the
Oh, wow.
entire
Ranch.
area.
Uh-huh. The entire ranch.
Wow. And this is
I
the
guess that
other
would be a drive.
that's a drive. Now this scene after the whole because they went for a drink or whatever after that happened. And I actually really like this scene because again, this was one of those things that I think you talk about all the time, Script Doctor, and how like he's got really good dialogue in this.
Mhm.
And in this scene, there basically, long story short, is like kill him with kindness, right? And that's kind of like the method that the Indian girl has, but she doesn't even realize it. Like she
Mhm.
doesn't know she's doing that. And like Beth is like, the reason that girl hated you is because you're so nice and you actually have a good soul and you're a nice person. And what you did to her, she's never gonna forget. Like I really like the dialogue of what she was saying because in a way I kind of relate to the native girl in that sense because I'm like, I try to be nice. Like I try not to be mean to people. I try not to be like Beth. Well, unless you catch me on the wrong side of the month, like on the day like my period starts or something. Then I'll be like, fuck you.
I
But
think
otherwise-
Beth, it was a great character development moment too. I think for Beth, we get to see that she actually does have a heart. She cares about this girl, and she went out of her way to protect her and trying to show her like what she could be and how to stand up for herself, but without also trying to change the goodness that she also sees in her. So she may have a little bit of respect for her, but I think she modeled some behavior that she wants her to maybe pick up on. It's like a big sister, I think.
Yeah, and I like that. There was another thing too before, like in the last episode when she was gonna when she got raped, which was like there was a scene that Taylor Sheridan had set up, which was and I'll put it up. I thought it was a beautiful scene. It was with Beth and Rip on the roof, where he's basically gonna tell her that he loves her, and she's like, don't tell me you love me, or like she didn't say the words. She's like, don't tell me until like I'm about to fall off a cliff or something like that. And he doesn't. He's like, okay, I'll save it. But like, so I was thinking like this is all like when she said that or when they said that to each other, I was like, oh no, like something bad is gonna happen to her and he's gonna tell her I love you to like bring her back or whatever. But I thought that it was going to be like way down the line. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to have to wait like 3 seasons for this. And then it was literally like 5 minutes later. I was like, what? Like, holy cow, they couldn't wait a little bit longer. But I thought that was a funny scene. This was not funny, but it was an interesting setup. Yeah. There you go. That was the scene where they were like, I thought it was a good line. It was a good line, but I really did think that they were going to set it up for a little longer. This is the kind of
romance I've noticed a lot of women just eating up.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's the best kind, Tom.
I don't like how she treats him though.
Well, she was treating him better now, like this season, when she was finally like, "Oh, take me out on a date."
Better at least, yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like he has been in absolute love with her from the moment he saw her.
Oh, he has, and she's just finally figuring it out. But yeah.
But and I think that I just don't how we saw her treat him in the beginning, knowing, and I think she does know that he would do anything for her.
Well, and I think they did
terrible.
I think they did a poor job of kind of reiterating, at least from the start, that she had been gone. Like, if they keep welcoming her home in that first episode, right? Because that's the thing, is I think she's been gone for a long time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she was gone for a while, and then he was like, "You're staying? Can you stay, please?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm staying, Daddy." And like, yeah, because she was gone for a long time. Man, she's hardcore. Oh my God, sorry, I was going through that crazy scene. Oh my God, and then they tape the body, and they send the bodies back to return to sender. Oh my God. Okay. Is there anything else to talk about with regards to this season? Script Doctor, do you have anything else you want to talk about? Any specific scenes or anything?
I liked the way that they did the mystery of trying to find who had the plane and how they dumped that it wasn't grass, but it was something else.
No, the clover.
Like clover.
Yeah.
To cause all the issues. I
dug that.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That was good.
Gas, yeah.
That was good. Anything else? Anything specific?
No. I think we did a really good job covering a lot of it.
Yeah, no, I thought this was a pretty solid season. Yeah, it has some issues. I think the next season's probably a little bit better, but I'm curious to see what you think about it, Nina, when we get there. Oh, George
is here, and he's wearing a Yellowstone hat.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah.
Representing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love this show. I have issues with it, but yeah, sorry I was late.
That's okay. We're just wrapping up, George, but tell us what you thought of season 2.
I liked it. Not as much as I love season 1. My issues with season 2, which actually I was waiting to ask all of y'all, especially Script and Tom. What I wanted to know was, there seems to hit points where, I don't know, I guess this happens to shows, where it kind of loses the luster or the magic, and it feels more like a soap opera. Like that they were certain, and it's like, I don't get it. It's like, y'all did these episodes so great, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to call them filler, because it didn't feel like filler. It just felt kind of redundant, where it just like Days of Our Lives or Young and the Restless. Like,
there's definitely like the Dallas thing kicks in this season, that's for sure.
I don't know. Yeah. It's like, I have an issue with the whole, daughter and the brother thing.
Yeah.
Especially given the way the father's supposed to be on top of things. See, he keeps projecting this, he's like King Warrior Dutton.
So have you watched past this, George, or have you just seen the second season? Okay.
No, I've seen them all. I was waiting actually for the second half of season 5 was supposed to come out, but then there's all these reports that they were starting to film it and Costner walked off the set because he was filming something else. That's what the news keeps saying. I don't know if that's BS.
Well, he didn't walk off. He
I was going to say it's not so much
walk off.
But yeah.
And because he actually loves Yellowstone, but he finally got, after years of pushing,
the green light,
got his dream movie that he wants to do, and it's an epic film.
Right. Another Postman or Waterworld? That sound?
No.
Let's hope not.
God, I hope not.
I don't know.
I like Waterworld.
Me too,
I like
Jay.
Waterworld, but
I love
Waterworld.
People always blame Waterworld. Waterworld wasn't the movie that killed his career. It was Wyatt Earp and The Postman that killed his career. People forget that.
Oh, dude, I forgot
Wyatt
about
Earp was
Wyatt
a
Earp.
3-hour long
Wyatt Earp.
freaking movie, and
But I liked Wyatt Earp. But
and it went up against Tombstone.
I know, couldn't beat that. But my point is, so he didn't walk off because they said he only had 50 weeks to shoot. But still, if they're not finished,
It's
how
a
do you leave?
negotiation issue. He just hasn't come back. They're supposed to start shooting the new season, I think, in the next week or so is what's going on, and he's still shooting this.
As far as I know, though,
Yellowstone,
like the Yellowstone people addressed it because there was like all these rumors, and they said he's not leaving. And
Okay, but what about the
so-
other half of the season 5?
Well, they said
Yeah.
they're still working on it. or
they're
whatever, 'cause
working
here's the
on
thing.
it, but
Here's
they're
the
going to
thing.
be working on it around his schedule, basically.
I-
Like,
Well,
they're
I'm
what
gonna-
they should
curious-
do.
I'm curious. Well, here's the thing. Kevin Costner's going to Kevin Costner, right?
Right.
This is him, and honestly, I get it. He had an opportunity to do this. His career has not been in the place where it was 20 years ago or whatever.
Dances with Wolves. I
In
thought
that
it's kind
era,
of like
but-
back in, yeah.
But at the same time, the only reason he's getting this opportunity right now
It's
is
'cause of
Taylor
Yellow.
Sheridan.
Right.
So, like, I think he should kind of take that into consideration. I don't know how he can work this out. I hope he does. But it also feels like Paramount isn't so worried about working it out with him as, you know,
Well,
they could
good.
be too. And I'll tell you why. And this is what I was saying before to you guys, is I think they're more than happy to spin this show off into something else so they can bring it back to Paramount Plus.
Okay, well then here's my question, which I took us off on a tangent and I didn't mean to.
all right, George.
Like, I am actually now enjoying the prequels more than the last few seasons of Yellowstone. But I just saw the last, because I'm reviewing, I just saw the last of 1923 today,
Mhm.
early in the morning when it came out, because you can get it like, anyway, so, and I saw it and I was like, and I was
I haven't
hoping
seen
they,
the new one yet.
yeah, and I actually like it. I think Harrison Ford has a lot. He brings a lot of his old personality back. It's not. He
Absolutely.
doesn't phone it in. At least I don't think he phones it. I think he
I don't
gives
think
it.
so either.
Oh, you can tell
No.
he's having a good time with it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
what'd you
It
say,
is.
Jane?
I mean, especially when he had that monologue that is like perfect 2020 hindsight on what governments do. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, Jesus.
Brilliant.
He has some fantastic lines. I love the prequel.
Yes. See, okay, Jane.
I
so
can't
what-
wait to get to the prequels because that was one of my things with this show initially. And some of you guys missed that from the last review, but I actually thought that this show was set in the past. So when I went in here and it was modern times, I was like, there's cars in this. Like, no, like I was like, no, I wanted the prequels is what I wanted. But so I can't wait to get there. But
You're
I'm,
gonna love him.
I
You're
feel
gonna
like
love
I
him.
still have to like watch Yellowstone to get a better
1883,
feel.
not so much, but 1923, it really does help because you got to kind of know the internal politics of the show.
But
to
wouldn't
kind
it,
of
wouldn't
get
it,
some of
wouldn't
the-
it be
watch-
weird, too weird to jump after season 2 into prequels?
Oh no,
though?
not
Like,
at all. You need at least
No.
one season of Yellowstone because it gives you the whole
Yeah.
flavor, and you'll understand why they fight.
You got to
That-
understand
that they've
also
been fighting
the
since the beginning.
yeah, and you got to
Mm.
also understand about the it helps to understand like the like I said the internal politics of the show because the ranch police or whatever they are, the cattle police,
Mhm.
like that's this made up organization.
Actually, they
and
have
stuff
real
like
ones.
I was
Do they
laughing
really? I thought it
actually
was
because
fake.
that was a thing.
Yeah, they have
no,
them.
They
no,
have
that is
them.
a thing. Yeah, but I was laughing at that because it was like when they went in to get the bad guys in this season, they were wearing the vest that said like cattle
It's the
Um,
commission.
It's the
cattle
livestock
com-
police.
There you go,
livestock police.
police.
Yeah, and I was like, these motherfucking livestock police going in there like it's nobody's business. Like, it's so funny to just like see the livestock police like have all these like
Well,
weapons.
no,
and
because
stuff.
people
essentially
rustle.
a cartel. It's used so that they can kill the people that have violated their cattle or land.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's really just a legal way of manipulating
The law.
the law.
It's genius.
And-
Well,
though.
what happened was you had see, this is what I loved about 1923. You know, when you get into a show and then you're like, well, is this real or is this fiction? So I went down that rabbit hole and I started
Mhm.
researching. Well, the livestock police have been around for a long time because they originally had a problem with
I
like
thought I had
sheep
read that they were
herders.
fake. Sorry, that's
no,
my
there's
bad.
different names for them in different
Mhm.
states, but they actually was about grazing rights. And you'd have a lot of other, originally it was between ranchers. Someone would go to graze because you'd have open range territories where they're like, we can graze anywhere. Then you had other states you couldn't, where they'd have to be fenced in. And then you had the people who had sheep, and they had their herds. Anyway, long story short about 1923, the last episode did exactly what I knew it was going to do. And it pissed me off. And this is where I'm tying it back to Yellowstone in this season. which is in 1923. One of the aspects of it is there's one of the children,
Don't
nephews.
spoil it.
I'm not spoiling it. One of them has
Okay.
to basically they have a side story, which you're waiting the entire season
To
to get where he has to go, and still by the end of the season, the motherfucker never gets there. It's like get out to the next season. And I'm like, I want to ask script, why would they do that? Because I've noticed the same thing in Yellowstone. It's like you could tell this could have been cut in half, but they just like keep stretching it and stretching it. That's the soap opera feel.
I don't have that
answer
problem
part
as
of that
much as
for you.
other shows, but yeah.
Well, the reason they stretched it out is because they did not know they were going to do a second season of 1923.
Oh. Well, why don't they know that from the beginning? Like, since they have all
They
these.
didn't know if it was going to be a hit.
They didn't know it was going to be a hit.
Okay.
And the other part too is there's no guarantees in Hollywood.
Yeah, they want to make more money. They're like,
What
oh,
about
it's a hit. We
contracts?
want to make more money. We
Nope,
got to milk it.
contracts don't mean anything.
One of the
Wait a
things
minute. What do you mean they don't mean it? You sign a legal contract that doesn't.
You can sign a legal contract for 5 seasons, but if the show doesn't do well and they cancel it, the contract means nothing.
I got you. Okay.
One of the things I loved about this, for me, I saw them in order. I didn't actually see Yellowstone first.
Oh,
and so
good.
when you start with 1883, it's like this whole family story unfolding. And it's just an interesting way to watch it. But I agree with you too about the historical aspect. Like there's so much in the prequels that you may not be familiar with because our schools fit themselves. And so you will find yourself like researching different things and learning what
I love that.
Learning
When
about
was the
American
last
history.
When was the last time y'all did that for a show, or you felt that way? Like I enjoy that aspect, but for Yellowstone season 2, the daughter, just grates on my fucking nerves because it's like, look, you were a teenager, he was a teenager. Get the fuck over it. It's like what, you couldn't fucking read either.
Don't tell me what happens, George.
Well, I'm trying this.
Yeah.
I'm waiting because I haven't
all
seen
the
it.
seasons. It's hard for I'll try to.
I've
seen all of them, so they're kind of both.
I know that's the thing, and that's what my problem is right now. Is I really wish that they had already give us something to do with why the sister hates the brother so much.
They
like
do
Jamie.
that at the end of season 2.
No,
It's not yet.
Oh, see, it blending. Oh, you'll find out, and you're gonna feel the same way, I think.
I was like, mother.
I don't know.
I mean, the last time we talked,
I like
Skip Doctor
Beth, though,
said
so.
that
I like her,
when
but enough. Like, okay,
The
she does
last-
that for 5 fucking seasons. It's like
Right.
it's like one note characters. It's like how much. It's like I love Darth Vader, right?
Uh-huh.
But if he was in every single frame doing the same damn thing,
It's gonna go on until
It's
she's
getting
proven
tired.
right. Until she's proven right about Jamie in front of everybody. That's how
Okay,
long
can
it
I
will go
okay,
on.
can I take a guess like about what he did? Okay,
Yeah.
so the first time I thought maybe he like killed her horse or something. Like I was
No.
like, I don't know, maybe that's what happened. Now I'm starting to think that maybe like no, the first season I was like, I hope to God it's not incest because I thought like it
Oh,
was
no,
it had
no.
something to do with incest. And I was like, oh fuck. Like, I mean, that would make me hate my brother if, like, I was incested. Now the other thing is I thought maybe it has to do with her getting pregnant and then like he makes her get rid of it or he kicks her in the stomach or something and then
You're like
maybe
almost on the
You're
target.
getting warm. You're getting warm, but we
Okay,
don't want to get
see.
too deep into it.
Don't
And the
ruin
reason-
it for
I can
yourself.
tell you one thing: he doesn't force her to do shit.
Okay, and the
Yeah.
reason that I'm saying this though, the reason that I'm saying this is because there was a scene, and I think that was planting a seed to kind of realize what happened. And the scene in this season was when she was staring at Rip having a conversation with Tate about horses, and she kind of just started crying, and Jamie was looking at her, and I was like, oh no, like what did you do? Because like maybe she got pregnant with Rip and he convinced her to get rid of it or something. And then she keeps thinking about this life that she could have had and having kids or whatever. And then, there was another scene too, because she told him after she said to him, like when he killed the woman or whatever, she said to him, one day you're gonna like someone's gonna fall in love with you and you're gonna fall in love with someone and I'm gonna take that away from you.
Right. And that pretty much gives you a lot of the information. The problem is it's like, you remember in season 1 where the father says, to Jamie. He's like, it carries over into season 2. He's like, I made a mistake. I should have never sent you to law school.
Yes.
And the son is like, I fucking didn't want to go. It's like he wanted just to be like.
He says that to him again in this season, and then later that night, he's like, "You're gonna be a lawyer tonight, son."
Right, but see, that's the thing. It's like I feel like it's like the way they've written the character. He's like everybody's whipping boy, and he's the one person who is all in to help his dad. But they're almost pushing him the way. It's like Beth hates him, and he is not what she thinks he is, but she's going to create that. Do you see?
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah.
I also think that John wants him to push back a little bit, and he just doesn't. He wants him to
right, because he's not. Yeah, he's not. See, Jane, you're right, but that's what I was saying. Which I like. It's like John has not raised.
Well, that's
them
what creates
in a way.
drama, though, right?
Right, but they haven't raised them in a way that 1923 shows. Like you see, everybody there. Excuse me, pretty much understands like every day you have to fight to survive. But it's like he didn't raise warriors. It's kind of like, which is what he needed.
You have to have it. I agree with you. They're in a different time. It's a different era. It's a similar threat, but you have to be able to respond differently. And he hasn't really adequately prepared them to be the warrior and the citizen, I guess.
Well, we've overlooked one aspect here, and that's why. This is one of the first generations of their family to be raised without a mother.
Oh.
Well,
people forget that aspect. Yeah, they had her
mother
for only a
figure.
small.
You mean? Oh, I got you. What you
they
mean.
didn't have a mother. She died early on. So
yeah.
So they didn't get the nurturing side of things. And then when you do see her, she's not the most nurturing mother to begin with.
She wasn't very nurturing at all.
So that's the thing is like you have a very flawed situation with this family upbringing to begin with. So that's where a lot of this
Although
is
like Beth did say that she was the spine of the family when she was alive. That's what I was about to say.
She probably would have been the one to really train them how to handle the world emotionally and be emotionally strong, while he would teach them how to be physically strong.
And then I think that's what that whole scene is with her. When her mother dies, is like it's her showing her like, no, you're gonna stand here and watch what happens because she knows what's going to happen. And you're right, Jane. That is her role in the family.
Gotcha.
And you kind of see that through, Helen Mirren's character as well.
Oh, I love her. Except for a couple of things. I love her character.
Yeah, I
can't
honestly,
wait to get there.
She's great in it. As
far as they both shine. Helen Mirren, except, again, a couple of flaws, but I understood where she was coming from. But what do you think about that? Do y'all think, I'm sorry I came at the tail end and y'all have already finished.
No, it's okay.
What do y'all think of, doesn't she seem Beth too one note?
Yes.
Okay. So far, yeah.
I got it in the beginning, but they're dragging it out too much.
And it doesn't stop.
That's what I was saying before. Like Jamie should have stopped her by now. Like they need to have their face off. And they just haven't really had it yet. They keep having
just fucking duel it out already. I mean, it's weird too because Jane, like it's kind of weird because in the first season they had that scene where like she's beating the shit out of him and she's like, "Hit me, Jamie, hit me," and he finally fucking hits her and then she's like, "A real man would have walked away." And I was like, usually when siblings fucking duke it out like that, like afterwards it's like, okay, we're fine now because we finally fought it and got it out of our system.
No, she's egging him on purpose. And again, I agree with you guys. It's something that needs to come to a head,
but it doesn't.
But she's not going to be happy until, like I said, she's proven right in front of everybody. And until they have that moment, it seems like that's their will they, won't they moment, kind of the Ross and what's her face moment.
But why do you think that? Why do you think that is? Is that a purposeful decision, or is this something that just like in the writing room? Do they go like, this is who we want her to be for the entire bloody run? Because
I think part of it is the fear, right? It's like when they got Ross and Rachel together, that's pretty much when the show would go downhill. Like it's just an analogy for like a will they, won't they thing. Once you get those characters together, once you have that big blow up. Where do you go from there?
A whole new beginning?
Like, hopefully, but like, yeah.
Yeah, but that's more for
they're going to have to kill each other. Like one of them is going to have to die.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One's going to die. And what it's going to be is it's going to be I'll tell you the truth. It's probably going to be the first time that Beth ever kills anybody.
Well,
I could see that. I mean,
I don't think
if
she's killed
capable
anybody
of
yet
it,
from my recollection. She hasn't.
well, I mean, she tried to kill her rapist in this one, which was totally justified. I mean, I
She
think
came
I
close
would.
in that respect, but like,
She
yeah.
did. She stabbed him in the fucking throat like several times. I loved that scene actually because she like stabbed him in the throat, and then he's like bleeding out over there
He
while the
got
other
it.
guy's on top of her, and she's like, "Oh, you're bleeding out over there? Fuck you, good. Fucking die slowly, you piece
See,
of
that's
shit."
when
I
I
was
like
like,
her, but
I like
yeah.
her. I like her
Who
a
I
lot.
couldn't stand in this season was, and I have my list of like 12 actors. I've told you before I can't stand, is the guy with the big baby head and big teeth, the bad guy, one of the brothers, the cowboy hat.
Oh, I was saying how much I
Oh, we
love
all
him.
like him. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
like him? I don't like him. I only liked him in Band of Brothers. After that, it was like,
Oh, I love that guy. I love him in anything. Whenever he's like a bad guy in anything, I'm like, I'm sold. Like I'm
I
there.
think he plays a pretty good heavy. Yeah, I like him as a heavy.
He's just like it's just like whatever for me. But I mean, I like the fact that he's a one and done though. Like it's like in this season, it's over. Like, bye. And then unless they're gonna bring him back next season,
No.
like he didn't actually get shot because they hung
That's a
the
good
other
thing
guy
that-
and then they brought him back. And I was
Well,
like,
Yeah.
actually, it's funny. We never actually see the death of that.
no, we don't
character.
see the death unless you guys are gonna tell
And
me he's
all
coming
we
back.
know
wait a minute.
is
Wait,
that
they
there's
shot
med-
one on the toilet, and then they shot.
He's dead.
Yeah,
but his
he's-
brother was left for dead with medical help on the way. We never
Didn't
have
he-
seen
Yeah.
him since.
I thought he got shot with the shot. Didn't he get
Nope.
shot?
Kevin Costner gave him his word. He said, "If you tell me where my grandson is, I will call the paramedics."
Yep.
But he also didn't tell him how long it would take for the fucking paramedics to get
Yeah.
there.
And that guy was like, I don't think they're gonna come. So bye.
No.
And then he was like, well,
Well,
do you
he
wanna
kind of
be
knew they weren't
alone?
going to get there in time, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, but then he was like, do you want to be alone or do you want me to stay with you? And he's like, I want to be alone. And then he goes like, I wish we had never met. And he's like,
And
yeah,
that
sure
is-
you do. And then
And
he
that
goes,
is leaving the door open for the possibility of him being dead.
That
I
would be
love it.
interesting.
So-
I haven't seen it. So
Yeah.
that would be. You know what I really like is the train station. I'm just worried that one day you're gonna get some like cop go by and they think there's find 100 skeletons.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like, what's
oh,
serial
you know what,
killer
George?
role?
Great. You know what? No, great point about the train station because we actually didn't talk about that because that was
Well,
one
I'm
of my
curious how
favorite
that works
characters.
because, even if, okay, I know the whole thing with Jamie was if the whole thing got out about it, wouldn't matter because it's just a character assassination at that point anyway.
Mm.
But isn't that the whole point of the train station is that nobody could get convicted because it's
It's
Not
in
in
between
any-
two jurisdictions. It's a no man's
yeah.
land.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work in actuality.
Yeah, but you can't have like a mountain of bones if they've been doing that for it's like,
Oh, it's- yeah,
I know,
it's-
George. I was thinking about the same thing. It's like somebody's gonna find a pile of bones one day and be like, "What the fuck have they been doing on this ranch?"
even if they do, that would be a federal thing at that point, wouldn't it?
I think of all the
I know,
bodies.
depending on where it
Because
is.
it doesn't matter that they found them dead in that place. If they can determine that they were killed somewhere else and moved
Yes.
there,
Mhm.
then
Yes.
you're dealing with a
And that's where I
Yeah.
think the whole big deal was. But
Well,
Again,
let me
that-
ask
that
you,
was
how do you
hang
get
on,
out
hang
of-
on. Hang on though, because George, you brought up a good thing, because a good point, because I really like that character. And I thought that was a big moment for Casey because he stepped up and he was like, he found out they're going to take him to this train station. And they're like, Casey's like, no, like this guy ain't going to the train station. And they go to have a conversation in the car. And he's like, what if I gave you my word that I'm not going to talk about anything that I saw here and I'm just going to go? Or he's like, what if you gave me your word that you're not going to do that? He's like, if it gets me to save my life, of course I'm not going to fucking talk about this shit. And he lets him go. And I thought that was a really interesting scene because it plants something for later on, possibly in different seasons, where either that guy's going to come to help Casey or possibly betray him and tell and the ranch, because he can probably tell a lot of things that he saw. And would that be a lesson for Casey later on, that he should have killed the guy? He should have taken him to the train station because he's going to end up backstabbing somebody. I don't know. These are the things I'm throwing out. This is why it's fun to watch season by season and just kind of throw out the theories, see where I land on anything. But have I landed on anything? Does this guy come back yet?
He does come back.
kind
Okay.
of. I'm not
Okay.
gonna.
That's
get
all I
into
need
I
to
that.
know.
won't tell you what he does, but he does come back.
Okay, so he does come back. At least I can rest easy.
My favorite character is actually the old cowboy.
The old cowboy is
yeah, the
pretty
old
cool.
guy.
I
would
love
like
that.
to
And he's
know
a real
more of him.
cowboy. He's a real cowboy. I've watched some of his videos. I mean, like he's been doing it for 50 years. He's been in Hollywood and he goes to roadies. I didn't know.
Just like that guy that I like, the one that we were just talking about. Apparently, he's an actual country singer, and I
Oh, I
had
didn't
no
know that.
idea. But apparently, he is, and he even has an album. Because I was like, he's got a really nice voice. And then
Oh,
somebody in the
clearly
chat told
Taylor
me-
has a thing for like independent country singers.
Yeah,
and, well,
he's
this
great.
country
Apparently.
stars alone.
Oh.
Because he's had a lot of up and coming country people on the show. You'll see some more come on the show as it goes
Oh, a
along.
lot of good
Oh,
ones.
And then, of
too.
course, he brought Tim McGraw into 1883. So, like, you know,
And he did a
And-
fantastic
Hell
job.
yeah.
yeah, I loved his character in that.
The other character that I really like that I feel like they're going forward with really well so far has been Jimmy, not Jamie. Jimmy. I like Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy.
He's
See,
a-
he's the one I don't like. See,
he's
that's
a
the
I
funny
like
thing.
Jimmy.
He's a
I
peculiar
can't
character
stand
who
him.
Why,
Oh my
Tom?
God.
Why?
You're not supposed to be able to stand him.
he grows.
not so
He
much
does
like-
grow.
okay.
I don't like him now.
He does grow a little bit. I agree with George. Like, yeah, it took me a while to warm up to him. As he gets better, it's like at this point, you almost like feel sorry for the kid so much. You're just like, why didn't he just fucking off himself? He'd be better. Like,
Oh no, dude,
But you remember in season
do
one,
everybody
he
a
messed up-
fucking favor at this point, man.
that's
Just
mean.
But you remember it
no,
was a
I
favor.
could not stand his character from the start. Like
Yeah,
at
I didn't
first,
like
it
That's
took me a
hilarious. I
long
liked
time
him.
to warm up to him. It wasn't until he gets going with other things down the road.
There's some other
because-
things that happen
yeah.
later on that you're like, oh, finally he does that. Why didn't he do that beforehand? It looked
Yes.
like yeah.
But
Well,
see,
the
that's what I mean. I'm sorry.
No. The reason I'm saying that is because I like how at the start he ended up like so he was like so fucking useless,
Mhm.
and then now by season 2 he figured out he's good at rodeo. So now I'm like, oh, like now they're gonna take him to like he's probably gonna become a rodeo star. So I like how they kind of planted this like, oh, he's not so useless and he has a talent and he's gonna use his talent to do something probably great. I don't know what. I'm just
Well, to go off of that point, see, this is why I end up liking him and going back to my thread about Beth. He starts out as a character who's pretty much a one note that I couldn't stand. But then all of a sudden you see growth and it actually continues. He has a full arc. Hers is still the same. And it's like, I'm like, well, they wrote their
Well-
way with this guy. So script, why how
I
do you
wonder-
write yourself out of a 5
Is it because
season
she's
one
more
note?
of a deterioration character? That's the thing. Is Beth is
Yeah.
more
I
of
don't
a
know.
character who's deteriorating than she is growing. Like, I don't know how to.
I don't
And I
know.
think Jimmy
explain
too. I think they're both teaching two different lessons as well.
Hmm.
Like with him, he's that character who's probably really honestly the everyman these days, who doesn't really know where he fits in, doesn't really know what his
Good
purpose
point.
is in life, and he finds it. He discovers it, and then it gives him a reason to live. Because I think I can't remember where it is, but I think he does get to a point where he feels like, why am I even still alive? But then he finds a reason to go on, and so that's the lesson we're supposed to get from him. With
Mm.
Beth, it's a very different situation.
Oh, one last question, you guys. I know, like, it's been, a day since I've watched this fucking series, but I already forgot because Taylor Sheridan has so many fucking characters. Why did that hooker leave again? I forget why she left.
Oh, the stripper?
Yeah.
For reasons. Pretty much that's it. You will see her again.
Oh, you will? Because I was like, why is she
Yeah,
leave?
Taylor
Like, all of a
likes to
sudden-
bring characters back. Like,
In
that's
and
the thing
out.
I'm noticing, especially when you're like starting to ask where this person's been for a while, then all of a sudden they pop up again. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I was kind of shipping her and Jimmy because I thought like she's gonna start liking Jimmy, and then all of a sudden, and Jimmy was like starting to like her a little bit or whatever, and then all of a sudden like she's gone, and then like they're like, yeah, she left this morning, and I was like, why? And like no one says anything, and like
Nope, they
just
just
like, whatever, she's
threw it
left.
out there. She left, but Jimmy, season 2 is when he hooks up with the chick at the rodeo,
barrel
right?
racer.
The barrel racer. Yeah, and that was like the easiest thing I'd ever seen anything happen to anybody in a movie or in a show. It's like, you ride
Yeah.
whole rodeo. I want to be your girlfriend. What?
Basically.
It's like,
Really?
I mean,
That's
they kind of set it up like she's a groupie for like there's a group of like chicks that are digging these kind of guys. So I can
Honey,
get
what
it.
do they call them?
That's what
Belt
I didn't
bunnies. Belt
understand
bunnies or
because
something?
they are rodeo girls. So why would they,
They
be
are,
groupies?
but they are
Yeah,
kind of
they're
also
doing their
into
own
these
thing.
guys.
Belt
I know.
buddies.
I
They're
don't know.
around them
I
all
don't know.
the time,
They're-
though. Like, it's no reason.
That's
for
part of
them
it
to-
too, I guess. I
That was
don't know.
confusing.
Remember the old man told him stay away from
Yeah.
the belt.
Look,
belt
I'm going to tell
bunnies.
you one thing, and
Belt
this is
bunny.
yes.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I was gonna say because this rodeo stuff is actually we have one of the I actually come from a town with one of the rodeo champions in the country, and I'll
Cool.
tell you right now, that's the way this shit works. You get a lot of good-looking men and women together in the same place. There's a lot of fucking going on. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that right
But that's
now.
what I'm
Women's
saying.
not
Like,
a good-looking man.
I get having the young people sort of wanting to hook up and stuff. I get that part of it. And even one of the girls comments on that. But I don't see buckle bunnies.
Buckle
as
bunnies.
being-
Not what I said. I
I don't
said
see
belt
them
bunnies.
as
buckle
Derek
bunnies.
says they're
barrel
real, and I was just gonna
raiders.
say they are kind of real.
They
I have no
are
idea.
real. Like, you have groupies.
That's the thing is
but
most
that
of these
wouldn't
girls
be
aren't
barrel
like
racers.
okay. How do I put this? You got to remember these girls are also farm girls.
I know
So they're
the
not gonna
community.
just be
I grew up in
groupie
the country.
groupies.
I know
Okay,
these
okay.
people. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying they're groupies. I'm saying Jimmy objectively is not a good-looking guy. He's underweight. He's got a
Yeah,
terrible
he's
facial
not
hair.
great.
My
doesn't
problem with
eat
Jimmy
well.
from the start is he's a fucking meth head.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
never address it again.
Well, because they cured him. You know, what was it? Death or clean work? I mean, it's
Well,
like they didn't
it was
offer him.
It was technically jail for the rest of his life, or he comes work for the Yellowstone.
But he quit meth, Tom. He's not a meth head anymore. And he
We didn't
killed
see
those
withdrawal,
people.
I think is what you're
Yeah,
I
getting
we
at.
think
did have
after
some
getting
withdrawal.
brand, he'd probably be afraid to get. You
That
know,
would have been nice. That would have been nice actually to see the withdrawal process, like because there is withdrawal.
My
if
problem
you're
was
meth
I
head.
just didn't feel like the character deserved the chance he got to begin
Oh,
with.
but
So
he
it took him a
didn't.
while. It took him a while for me to like go okay, and even the stuff with his chick issues that we'll get into later. Like that's another thing where I'm just kind of like, what
But
the
you-
fuck?
But you're
Like with
right,
Paul-
Tom.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve it. Remember, it was either Rip or it was it was John who said, "This isn't a job. This is a favor to his what was his grandfather."
grandfather,
Yeah, they didn't. He didn't deserve the chance. Like this isn't for you.
No, yeah.
I'm trying to
But you're
find
right.
the rodeo scene.
Which did the grandfather stuff happen this season?
Nope. Next season.
Was it next season? Okay.
Yeah, the only grandfather stuff we saw is like the first time we see John Dutton's dad as like his final.
Which I didn't even recognize as Dabney Coleman.
Dabney Coleman, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember he was in a movie that I saw as a kid with the one who was in E.T., I believe, but he was like this imaginary character as like a green beret. It was-
Oh, Drop Dead Fred?
So he would be the younger brother than in 1923. Dabney Coleman would be as the younger guy. Is
By
what
the
I'm
way-
gathering.
There was another scene,
Right?
by the way, that I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to talk about. Sorry, Tom.
Because Jack is John's dad. At
Jack
least
is the uncle of the Dabney Coleman character.
Um,
Or not Jack. Spencer's the uncle of the Dabney Coleman character.
Yes, that I know.
Yeah.
Oh wait, so yeah. No, so he's their kid. Okay, yeah, he's their kid. Okay, you're right. You're right, Script. My
There's,
bad.
a,
Yes.
there's a whole
I know. I
family
gotta
tree.
remember how this is where you get old and you forget there's 30 years that have gone by you forgot about.
No, there's a whole family tree online because once you put
Yes.
1883, 1923, it's like who the hell is it? Yeah, there's a lot.
And you
of-
have the uncle coming in raising the kids. Yeah.
we're gonna end it very soon, but I just wanted to talk about one last scene that I forgot to talk about, which was this scene. I thought this was a really powerful scene because this scene actually kind of made me like this dude a lot because he was like the bad guy from the last season. And I, sad to see him go in this season, but I'm kind of glad that they're moving on
John
with it.
Huston's a very undersung actor.
He's
I
a really
like
good
him.
actor. And in this scene, the reason I really, really like the scene is because when he saw her and he didn't react to it like, fuck you, bitch, you deserve it kind of
Yeah,
thing.
no, not
It
at all.
really made me like that character. And it really made me think about how Taylor Sheridan's kind of giving you these kind of like gray characters. Like this dude's an asshole. Yeah, he wants money and power, but there's a level of craziness and psychopathy that you have to have in order to kind of have glee over someone's
Yeah.
extreme misfortune. And this dude didn't have that. And I thought, he acted like really well in this scene, and it was just a very interesting character point.
I
Did I say
agree.
John Huston? That's his dad. I meant Danny Houston. Jesus.
Danny Houston. Yeah, he was in one. He was in one I watched a little while ago, called Miami. Something Miami. It's like they were building a hotel in Miami in the 50s. It was actually pretty nice. No, it was called Cloak and
Yeah.
Dagger Script. The movie I saw as a kid.
Well, I just feel like he was
Oh,
never
okay.
he never
Okay,
got
there
his just like he was a great actor. He probably didn't get his just dues just because of who his dad was, but his sister always got the praise. And it's
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think here is a good place to end the stream. So thank you everybody for coming to hang out with us
Don't end it
tonight.
on my account though.
Oh no, we've discussed basically the entire
Oh,
episode.
all
Like
right.
there's
I was
really
gonna say, I gotta go, but
nowhere
like
else
nobody
to
else
go.
has to. So
No, it's okay, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tom, let everyone know where they can find you and what you got coming up next.
actually, I'm just heading over now to do the wrap up. I'll share the link here with you guys if any of you guys want to hop in over there. It started out as a show where we started doing the news of the week, and then slowly, because of Paul Chado, it became the show where we talk about whatever the fuck comes up.
Okay.
So it's like slowly become a show where we kind of avoid talking about the news of the week. So come on over and join us. It's just fun. We just talk for about 90 minutes. We just
Are you modded in the chat?
No.
Yes, I am.
Okay, you can drop the link.
I
if
almost
you
just
have
shared
to...
the wrong link, but yeah.
No, yeah. If you
Open
have
mic
the
night.
Dad had everybody in there.
regular, the regular link
Yes,
shared
yes.
in the actual chat for people to go to.
Gotcha. Thank you
And
so much, and this is fun. Hopefully, I get to join you next time.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we're going to be talking probably season 3 next week. So if you want to come back, you're more than welcome to. And you can catch Tom and I tomorrow on Midnight's Edge for Toxic Femme as well.
Absolutely.
Eastern.
Sweet.
I think we got a lot of ladies joining us tomorrow too, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of cool ladies hanging out. Jane, thanks for joining us. What do you got coming up next, if anything?
Well, let's see. You can catch me, of course, on my Saturday morning streams at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time and Sunday Funday on my Twitch channel at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, what have you, at Jane Theory.
Yay! I will update the information of the panel in the description. But yes, make sure you are sub to Jane. Jane's awesome. And of course, George, the Giant Slayer.
Thank you for having me on. Sorry I came late, but
I love that
I didn't want
your
to.
merch to this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
We need Yellowstone merch now. George, tell everyone where they can find you and what you got coming up next.
Well, you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and tomorrow you can see me on Base Staff Monday with Adam Krigler and Quarter Black Garrett and Darth Call. Hoping to get back to Midnight's Edge, hopefully, when I have more time this week. And then you can find me on Thursday on Hot Toys with Az. And then here, hopefully, next Sunday.
Cool. And Script Doctor, last but not least, my amazing Canadian brother from another mother.
We got to get him out of there.
I know.
Yeah, I want to get out. But so you can find, I do have a YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/scriptdoctor. I also have a Patreon right now where I've just posted a review of Dan Aykroyd's unproduced Ghostbusters 3 scripts, both drafts. And in March, which is a couple of days away, I'm doing the Marx Brothers March. So I'm going to be reviewing and commenting on the classic Marx Brothers comedies that I think a good 2 generations don't even know much about, and talking about the value of how to make comedy last beyond the time it was written. And doing that over there. And I also have a surprise interview coming up in 2 weeks on my Patreon as well. So if you are a member on the Prime level or above, you will get full access to that. If you just want to show your support and get some cool writing advice and tips and random reviews, the basic level is there. It's very cheap, just $5 US. And if you can join, very helpful, because it's going to a project that I'm working on with a bunch of other creative guys. And if you can't, just share the link. It'd be much appreciated.
Yay! Definitely sign up to Script Doctor's Patreon. The link is in the description. And I think that's everybody, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to my mods for hanging out and dropping the links, Darren. And everybody else, thank you so much. If you super chatted, extra, thank you. And we will be back probably next Sunday with season 3 of Yellowstone. I cannot wait till season 3 because I've been told I get some sort of backstory on freaking Beth. So
Yep.
I'm looking very much forward to season 3 and to the discussion we will have. So until next time, have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Wait, what should we end it on? Let's end it on a bunch of Texas people. Here we go.
That's good.
Computers don't make errors. What they do on purpose. By now, your name and particulars have been fed into every laptop, desktop, mainframe, and supermarket scanner that collectively make up the global information